Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Aurora. So this class is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and the past, as I just moved myself here, the past 2 weeks or so, I've been diverging from what I usually teach and speaking much more about current events, because and not just in terms of like any kind of politics or daily weather report, in terms of the transformation that I'm personally experiencing and that our planet is experiencing, and that I speak with other human beings about what's their level of experience too. So I know that this is something that is happening as a collective and as an individual. And one of the things that I was saying rather jokingly on my like informal intros that I'm doing now on Facebook, because like I was saying, I really am focusing mostly on the people that we're like a band, that we have gotten our songs together. We already have a commonality, like in terms of what words mean, what we're talking about in this whole, if I tell you about the membrane of death, you understand what I'm speaking about, or if I use certain words. So yes, lesson 18 is usually, I first did this class long ago. It was, hey, thank you. Oh my goodness, wait. So good to see you, and I want to wish you happy birthday. We will sing to you if you want. Oh, you look fantastic. You're wearing she's wearing one of the garments that I make too, and it's the same pattern. Awesome. Well, you have great taste. You're looking good, and happy birthday. Thank you very much. So I know I'm being a little bit lighthearted, and I was like, I'm not going to wear rainbow makeup today because this is kind of like not that fun presentation. Lesson 18 is what I usually, years ago when I started the class, used to reserve it only for people in the class. Like it was only for people that weren't gonna, lose their SHIT. They weren't gonna go bananas. I joke about this too almost every semester. Breakfast of Champions, this book and also a movie where the guy reads a manuscript and he kind of goes crazy and decides that no one around him is real. He's the only real pure person because there was like this, science fiction manuscript, and he picks up, he goes crazy and of course becomes violent. We don't want anyone to become violent. Don't want anyone to Dwayne Hubler, Breakfast of Champions. Don't become like that guy. I'm always joking about that. Can't use magical words here. But yeah, we don't want anyone to do that. But this information now is like very, very openly spoken about. And it's basically planetary invasion, but planetary invasion has happened many, many times, and it's ongoing. It's happening right now, and it's being ratcheted up. And so this is what we have to talk about. Because, whatever, I use words that might seem hyperbolistic or exaggerated, but they are not exaggerated. They are actually accurate descriptors of the situation. So I feel like it's just important to take the information or what I'm speaking about seriously. So I understand that there's a rational skeptic. Like there's like a layer that this information has to get through that is called the rational skeptic that says that can't be happening and I don't believe it for various different reasons. And there's also a technological overlay that is a form of mind control that is preventing people from being able to even think clearly for themselves or exert their own willpower. So there's different things that are happening. There's control of the intellect, and there's also control of the willpower. And the control of the willpower is coming from control of magnetic fields, like I spoke about in previous weeks, that you're in a war, and the war is a battle of the force fields. So it's not projectiles like a bullet or an arrow. It is something that is a force field, a waveform. Where's my sculpture? And so here, this is something that you can use in this type of struggle. When I talk about the challenge, like, oh my goodness, it is very, very challenging. When I talked about what happened in the experience weeks ago, where there seemed to be like a respite. So I live in California, and there are still massive power outages in the northern part of the state. And I do find that on some of those days, it feels like easier for my consciousness to do my usual flying rainbow lasagna dance, to connect with real divinity and the real sun, which is being at times subsumed by an artificial light. I'm going to make this uncomfortable. Sorry, I'm blinding everyone. Oh no, artificial light that is coming here is too much, too much. There is something that is also at the same time that the sun, that the natural sun is in the sky. There is something else that is also in the sky that is an unnatural light that doesn't just affect your eye and what you can perceive on the level of in your hard-edged physical reality, but light is also information. And you could think of this as like a false light that programs a false reality into your mind, and it affects you on the level of your optic nerve, not merely the surface of your cornea or your iris, but into actual neurological signals of what you're actually seeing being processed differently or perhaps not processed at all along the optic nerve and various areas of your brain. So again, a hugely invasive project, not something that is benevolent, not something that is merely, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, it doesn't really harm you. It doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of like a flavorless thing. It's not that type of a thing. This is the type of a thing that is very, very harmful. It is not just inert. It's not just something that's going on. And it's hugely insulting that it's happening right now, because what's supposed to be happening right now is a reconnection of your material body to a world of pure light, which is pure information, which is moving at a very, very fast rate. So in order to connect effectively to that world of pure information, you have to raise your rate. And the raising of the rate, this is what I use as an analogy, running the marathon. How fast can you get your energy centers of your body going so that you can run this marathon? And that's what we as individuals and collectives are supposed to have been doing for the past couple of decades. And of course, there's been all this technological stuff that has been trying to impede us. So it's not just a force field called 5G or something that is emitted from the Wi-Fi system of your house. It is that, and it is also, so these LED lights emit the same type of, it's out of tune frequency. It's not just having dirty electricity that runs through the house. Like all of those things, if it were just that, I think it would be very, very easy to jump over those hurdles. So think of it like this, like we're like track athletes. And, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like a track and field event. And you're trying to jump over these hurdles that are the things that are being placed in these obstacles, placed in either our ancestry. There are a lot of things that were done to the human body, the body that I'm in. You guys know who I am. I don't have to reintroduce myself constantly. I'm learning all about what happened from the interior. Like I was definitely part of the world at a grander scale when these bodies were degraded. I didn't know as much from the first person. So as the first person, I mean, like, yeah, I get to do a lot of fist shaking. I get to be like, this is not okay. This is, I feel the same feelings that I think many, many people feel. The reality that we are experiencing right now, that the rational skeptical mind calls reality, is objective materialism. It's the world that science studies, and it is an intentionally limited level of reality that is presented to humanity as like a trinket in lieu of the totality that humanity is supposed to be able to perceive, including energy and time, that would make you very empowered and very, not easy to control, like very wild, very undomesticated, very not fearful. It's only the limitations that humanity has been given in terms of genetic limitations. So these, they're dumbed down slices that humanity is given. And so what people perceive as the matrix, they think, oh, I'm in a computer world and like someone's out there typing my life into the computer with a little QWERTY keyboard. Like we're not in that type of a simulation, even though many, many philosophers over human history that is recorded here have considered how real is the world? How real is the world? What kind of world are we living in? The answer is we are in a self-created world because each one of us has like this, let's call it like a force field of generation, a force field of creation. You walk around in a sea of possibilities, but you, with your force field of creation, what I used to jokingly call the ovens in front of your eyes, you bake the dough of reality into actual bread of experience. So we're all doing this all the time. That's part of what we are as living beings and little tiny fractal microscopic versions of a much, much grander scale being that would be called. God, the source, the destination, infinity, that the thing that makes everything. So I'm not just talking about, well, what the analogies I usually use are the great composer and the great conductor. It's like the guy who invented music, the person who invented even the capacity to sing, the capacity to make time happen. Like that level is what I'm talking about. Let me drink and collect my thoughts. So the past couple of weeks, I talked about a false ascension happening, like technologically assisted or technologically inhibited. And since that experience, like I've experienced a lot of technological inhibitions and also a lot of interference from the supernatural consciousness residues, from the beings that live on the membrane of death. And everything is really, really changing at that level. So I want to draw it out for you, because I think it's just always easier for me to speak with pictures. So this is like a big, fat, magnified version of the membrane of death. And a life impulse, would be coming in this direction. And there's usually energy that travels, in various different lanes. It's like a multi-lane highway. There's some that travels like this. There's some that travels like this. Or like a river that has many currents going across it. Well, a lot of the energy that is stolen from the living, and the living, this area over here. Wait, let me choose a different color. That's over here. And also let me make my face bigger. Not that I don't love everybody in this class. This is the land of the living, and we are using energy and we are eating food. But a great deal of the food that we eat doesn't actually go to ourselves. A great deal of it is siphoned off even while we are alive. So one of the big tips that I can give to us all in this challenge to make your energy center spin faster and make the matter of your body vibrate at a faster rate is, when you are eating, don't allow any of your food to be stolen or siphoned off, even while you're over here, somehow feeding these beings over here. And the peanut gallery reaches in. That's these guys. I use these silly terms in order not to aggrandize them. They are horrible, horrible, miscreant assholes. Pardon me, I should have given the profanity alert. Hope everyone's out trick-or-treating. No little kids are listening. Yeah, they're the worst of the worst. And that's one thing I have to constantly just like reaffirm. Not that I want to keep on, just examining the worst, poop, and just, like talking about it so much. I have to stress this or emphasize this because I'm really not about what they are about. It's like when you find out what their values are and what they would do and who they are, it's like, there's really people like that. That's what it is. It's kind of that feeling, like not even recognizing the levels of psychopathology that are possible, but then having to recognize it. So all of this goes back to that original star that decided to make a little art experiment. I'm getting a star color, and I'm drawing this way back here as if it is like far back in time. And this star was irresponsible and decided, like, I'm going to make an organism that's like the worst, meanest organism, like the toughest, meanest, bloodthirstiest, and it didn't stay in its little enclosure. And it didn't stay there because of technology. Technology allowed these little green blobs that are not very nice to go all over while they were still pooping in their space diapers. And so there's two different things that are going on here in terms of responsibility that needs to happen. And these are really answers to questions that people always ask in terms of like, where is God? Is God out to lunch? Why aren't these things happening? Why has reality been so screwed up and so unfair for such a long time? So it's about who needs to take responsibility. The star, it needs to take responsibility for its offspring. And the star is literally like a musician that is playing with a band, and it's playing organisms into being that are organisms that are like, ooh, Jackie, hey, stop. I have to pause this. Apologies for the interruption. Going back to the whiteboard. The question of who takes responsibility. Like there was a very divine, perfect system in terms of the organisms that were here on Earth, on this planet, before the genetic invasion that I usually talk about in lesson 18. It's a very sad story. It's like, you know, the truth is there were very, very beautiful, divinely connected, healthy people. When I talk about, you know, this ancient or this antediluvian world, it's the way that humanity was supposed to be when everybody ate pure light. And also, like, you did not have to sleep. There was no fatigue. There's no diminishment or entropy of the body. I have to tell you guys all about entropy. Please remind me about that. That's a big part of this too. I want to jump around a lot. I hope that's okay. Well, let me jump. You know, when I talk about flying rainbow lasagna, and I say this was invented as like a solution, that there's energy at the top pointy part and entropy at the bottom part, and the singularity vibrates between these two places. And, you know, a critical part of this is that it goes between these two places so quickly that it's as if it's in one place at the same time. It's like it doesn't traverse the inner spots. It just jumps. Like I was speaking about the jump of the electron. It just jumps. And these two states, the top state is a state of being and the bottom state is a state of non-being. This shape allows for the singularity or infinity or the zeroth dimension or the you know, the place that everything resides to contain both beingness and non-beingness. And that's crucial because there are things that deserve to go to non-beingness that they were never supposed to be. And so that's also what lesson 18 is about. How did these things come into being that were never supposed to be? How could they be at the source and yet they were not supposed to be emanated? That's kind of the answer, that they were supposed to, here, come on up. They were supposed to stay there, like waiting for the great conductor. Oh wait, I have my piano all set up to say, dun, 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 it's time to play. And then you play, and then you're supposed to be alive. Here, jump on up. Come on, girl, jump on up. Yeah, you're supposed to wait until the great conductor tells you that it's time to be alive, and then you play your instrument, get into a body, and you are alive. And if you play the right music continually, then you'll stay alive. But if you don't play the right music, you don't stay alive. And they seem like very, very fair and simple rules. But these beings that emitted themselves from the source of life force energy, what they said was, we are not going into biological containers, so we don't have to play your music. And they put themselves into technological containers. And the technological containers make horrible music, and it's a way of trying to subvert the symphony of life. If I can have one emphasis of what I'm trying to say today, it is that we are in a symphony of life. And I am that type of extraterrestrial or supernatural or larger creature, that I am about the symphony of life. And this technology is the literal antithesis of that. It is the invention of death. It is what came to this planet in an ancient time before death was ever invented and created death. No one ever used to explore the membrane of death, ever. That's pretty amazing. It was a series of possibilities that no one ever actually experienced. They're like, oh, I'm going to avoid that bullshit, and I'm going to stay right here in the middle, mind my business, and go right on up there where I'm supposed to go. A very, very different level of existence. Imagine how much less fear you would have walking through your life, feeling totally healthy and happy, totally divinely connected and protected at all time, and knowing exactly what you're supposed to do in every minute. Like every moment is like a beautiful performance. You know exactly what you're supposed to do with the rest of the band. And you know that you're not going to die, that you are simply going to have a continued existence. That is very, very different than what humans experience now after the genetic degradation, which was a bringing of technology to this planet. This planet used to not to need technology. We don't need no stinking technology. Remember, nobody hit that membrane of death. Everybody lived for as long as you want to, until you get bored. You know, there's a lot of fun things to do, but then at a certain point you did everything fun, and then you can transcend So what am I talking about when I talk about ascension? What am I talking about when I talk about entropy? Like when I talk about going to entropy, here's a major, major fine point that was hashed out this past week, because I'm saying this is lesson 18 in real life, not the canned goods. Waiting for the machinery to stop in the background. Sorry, hold on about that. Entropy, when I talk about this, the beings that are unworthy characteristics of, you know, not divine presence or whatever, like the literal antithesis of all the, you know, term papers that are perfected or divine or, you know, well refined, all the things that shouldn't exist. They go into a state of non-being that is called entropy. But they are not allowed to use entropy as their fuel. Like in the past, what I have described it as falling backwards off a tall building. Let's draw a tall building. And here's the being over here that is going to jump off the building and then go down into entropy. Oh, I'm going down into entropy. That is an erroneous misperception that I think it opens it up to, like, legalese, too much wiggle room. Entropy is not a journey. It's not something where you're like, oh, I'm going to take 1,000 years, slowly, slowly, slowly falling backwards, slowly getting slower and slower and slower and slower, because they will drag this out endlessly. Like, ever been a nanny? And just like, one more bedtime story, one more bedtime story, you know, keep on like having it by an inch and an inch and an inch. That is what they're doing, these beings that are supposed to go directly to entropy. So entropy is not a long, slow journey jumping off of a tall building. It's supposed to be like the electron jump, starting from up here and then jumping on down, and then you're down here in entropy, a total loss of energy. So that's a very, very big thing. The beings that emanated themselves, that are technology users, they are beings of entropy. They don't like entropy. They're like, wait, the problem is that I'm existing, but I'm not able to actually use any energy, which is, you know, a terrible state to be in. That's like needing food, but there's no food. But don't feel bad about these guys, because you know how I've spoken about them. Like, you have to be very you have to understand that they made choices, very bad life choices or death choices. And the point is that this system that we live within, that was created by this amazing composer, is incredibly intelligent, incredibly well crafted, you know, put together with many different like safeguards and different ways for things to be fixed and ameliorated, and for new things to happen, so that the system doesn't become stagnant and die. And this is all about, you know, keeping that life alive, the symphony of life, keeping that music going. And the music is, you know, like I always speak about, music as opposed to noise. It is harmonically, you know, perfect waves, keeping these waveforms organized, having a way of doing this. So the idea of sending these unworthy characteristics to entropy is that they go directly there. They don't hang around for a very, 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 very long time here on the membrane of death. Oh, is my thing making a thing? Come on, make a thing. Oh my God. Technology. Here on the membrane of death. Not supposed to hang around there, going to entropy, quote unquote, for like 5 or 10,000 or 25,000 years. No. And so one of the things that I did over this past week, just in feeling supreme frustration with the sense of this, you know, valuable light and energy and, you know, ascension, like nourishment, not getting through properly, as I just decided, okay, like I'm just going to, you know, do as much flying rainbow lasagna as I can across the membranes of death, so that all of the light that's, you know, coming from beautiful suns and stars can get to where it needs to go without being, you know, trapped up with their, like, it's like a track and field event. How many hurdles can we jump over and still, you know, have that light make it to where it's supposed to go? And I started to be very specific about this. And that's like saying, let's play very specific notes as a collective, as a band, jumping over these things all together. and making sure that the energy is not stolen. So one of the big things that you can do as an organic embodied being in terms of not having your energy be stolen is when you're actually eating your food. Don't let your talking mind or anything like that take your attention away from your food. You have to be like, have you ever seen like dogs eat? They're like, get away from my food, get away from my food. You have to be that way with the disembodied beings on the membrane of death, who are horrible, horrible creatures, who will try to talk to you or magnetically push at you. Sometimes it's not even verbal, sometimes it's just a push. And then you're all of a sudden not feeding your true self, but feeding instead a set of ideas. Or like when you're speaking with your mind, you're also using your throat chakra here, and this is where you eat. Like your larynx is where you eat. So think about all the thoughts that you verbalize while you're eating your food, even beyond something like reading. Like, oh my God, don't read the political news while you're eating your food. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. You're like talking the political news to your food. That's like the least healthy thing you can possibly do. So the most radical thing that you can do is eat. And when you're eating, actually put it into your own body. And be like, no, this is mine. This is my light. This is my consciousness. You can't have it. Because what I have also learned this past week is that it takes an amazing amount of RAM or processing power, all just analogies here, to run a human body, to run it in a state of perfect divine health, like the way it was supposed to be before we had this genetic degradation. So the RAM or the processing power is like, how many plates can you keep juggling at one point? How many things can you consciously control at one point? Everything from like the activity at a molecular level, activity at a genetic level, activity of how you are connected to time and how your mind is creating things. We're talking about a high level of virtuosity. So in order to have that amount of RAM, it takes a lot of light energy. And what the beings did when they invaded our bodies and our planet a very, very ancient long time ago is they took away humanity's capacity to eat light directly and get all the light that you need. There's like this beautiful banquet of light, and it's not supposed to be that it's, you know, you only get a little tiny amount because you got to eat a tomato or you got to eat it and then have it all diffused from there into the cells of your body. You could get it directly into your body and you could get a lot more. So that's what I was talking about when I'm talking about ascension or leaving the material world or becoming a semi-material, a flying rainbow lasagna, matter plus energy world, a semi-physical world. This is about being able to eat light directly. It's not like you don't need food. You need food. You need a different type of food. Butterflies eat a different type of food than caterpillars. You need a different type of food. So you need to eat light. And so what I noticed during a lot of the most difficult times over the past week is that, you know, these beings would try to be like taking a lot of my ascension energy from me. And then it'd be like, wow, like now I'm really, really hungry. I need to eat cookies. Like I need like something to replace all of the energy. And I feel at times like I could get to the point of like being complete with energy if it weren't for them taking that food energy. So then I realized, well, that is the thing that we all have, that we all do, that is within our power. Like so many people feel so powerless. They're like, wow, the planet's been invaded. You got fake planes flying in the sky. You got tractor beam of the soul. You got, you know, occult societies overtly running your government at this point, and the intelligence agencies overtly running your government at this point. And who runs the intelligence agencies? Like that's just the hop, skip, and jump that some rational skeptics don't allow themselves to take, that it is not humans. It is not the human consciousness. So something else created these mind control devices other than humans and deployed them against humans. And same thing with the fibers that are in your body. The idea, I'll just go back to my face. The idea that that is in any way created by humans is a laugh. And if you say, but wait, Aurora, there are patents. Oh, I'm certain that there are patents. I'm certain that someone literally took ideas of like how to create mind control fibers and gave that idea to some human who actually acted out the activity. And I'm also certain that they even made humanity pay for it. Like there's slush funds and black budgets and other things like that. Like you always in a hell realm, you always end up paying for your own enslavement. Like it's not good. Grab your security blankets. I'm very sorry to say that, but you know, it doesn't have to be a hellish realm, but this is the economy of hell is part of lesson 18. So what's happening in the economy of hell is it is a economy based upon human suffering. Hold on. So stealing your food, that's just the minimum. They don't think that's that bad, first of all. Something that I think is horrible and monstrous. They're like, that's not even that bad. So they are horrible, horrible people who delight in torture. And they delight in taking away life force energy and sexual energy and degradation of the, you know, greatness of what you can be into something that is a monstrous, twisted, distorted, you know, wreck of what you once were. They love that. That's like their food. That makes them very, very happy. They feed upon that. That is the economy of hell. So a very big thing that I have to say, as I've been watching over the past several years of humanity waking up to the reality that there are beings who feed off of human misery and who feed specifically off of like raping children, or inappropriate sex abuse of children, inappropriate touching, inappropriate access, and then abuse at other levels too, you know, psychological abuse, social abuse. And these are things that you might consider normal, like social engineering things. They're not normal at all. They are not normal. These are all ways that humans are domesticated and diminished from their true self. And the transformation that we're all experiencing, and again, I'm speaking and directing everything here to everyone who's been connected in this class, we're experiencing this transformation on a genetic level and on an energy consciousness level, away from being a domesticated human and to being a wild and free human. And when you're a wild and free human, your mind is wild and free, and you're connected directly to your creative aspects in your non-physical aspect, your imagination, your creative consciousness, your capacity to create reality. You walk around with a generative field around you all the time that creates reality. So back to the sense that some people have that they think like, am I going crazy? No, you ain't going crazy. And also, we've been running a marathon for a long time. What do you think happens at the end of the marathon? Do you think you're like, oh, I just was crazy? Like, no, what actually happens is you transform. You have a different mental state. You get to a different sense of what is reality. So this should not be a surprise to anyone, and you should not go bananas, and you should not think like, oh my God, like what's happening? Like, you know what's happening. This is what we've been talking about for a very, very long amount of time. It's a transformation into multidimensional consciousness. It's birth of a new dimension. It's a changing shape internally. Change shape internally, just like when we do the Merkaba, you do start tetrahedron to octahedron, like showing you the molecule structure changing from disorganized carbon into very highly organized diamond, changes from hexagon into octagon. So all what I teach in the class, it's not just an intellectual exercise, it's a physical exercise. Can't stress that, emphasize that in a good way enough. It's about your body. So again, I recognize that I'm here with you, and we live right now in a very locked down, controlled world. It's already been invaded. Like, boom, like that's it. Like your government's been invaded. The 5G and all of that is meant to be like the final coup de grace, where you cannot even know that you're a slave, where you can't even know that your mind is controlled. And this is very similar to what happened at the very end of Atlantis. What happened at the end of Atlantis? So before pre-flood, nobody ever died. Nobody ever hit the membrane of death. That means there's no food there. That means those suckers, they can't eat anything. They had to invent food for themselves. They had to not only invent food, but like magnetically drag you over there like a tractor beam and make you experience it, like smashing your face into the membrane of death to create those disharmonious vibrations for them to eat. So one big thing, and I'll get to all these comments too. People right now, as they've been waking up over the past 3 years or so, and they recognize that children are bought and sold, that human whatever, it's like a form of currency. It's literally a form of currency, like electricity is a form of currency. Their technology runs on the trapped and victimized human consciousness that runs through its wires. It's not electrons running their technology. It is human consciousness, human energy. So anyone who thinks there's a literal syringe full of adrenochrome, you have been fooled by literalism, that perhaps someone tried to invent that as some effective communication device. Like if you're pantomiming and you can't even like get your point across, like we'll just say it's kind of like this. No, they don't literally eat a syringe full of anybody's bodily fluids. They eat frequency. They don't have to stick a physical needle into you in order to get it. They get frequency from you. They don't have to literally take your food out of your belly. They're like, oh, you can have the mass. We don't want like the hamburger itself. They just want the life force energy of the hamburger. And you become the little refinery that is making it into a form that they can actually eat. And yes, this actually happens all the time. And what's been unfair is that humanity has been artificially reduced in perception, so you can't tell what's happening. And so that's it. This reduction of consciousness needs to end. Like if there's one thing to focus on, it is the changing the mind control ray, changing what is reducing consciousness. So I'm always, jumping up and over, flying rainbow lasagna, and I'm teaching everyone to do that. And that is one way to supersede what is happening. Let's say we're the band and we're starting to dance a new reality into existence. This is the reality that I am encouraging everyone to dance into existence. And I also want you to understand the rational skeptic will say, dance, like that's so stupid. Like aliens are invading, it's War of the Worlds, like they're gonna suck your brain and you're like, you're gonna dance. Yes, that is exactly what you're going to do, because it's really this, like you ain't gonna write a petition, I'm telling you. We ain't gonna send a strongly worded letter to people in Washington, D.C. Like none of those things are effective. And I even think like marching in the streets with placards, I think is minimally effective, because you have to understand these are the worst, most horrible, bloodthirsty monsters in the entire world. And that is like, they were like, imagine someone who's like breeding like really dangerous animals and they think like, oh, I'm so cool because I have, dangerous toothy monster animals or whatever. No, it's totally irresponsible. And then like, something happens and your security gate goes down and then all the horrible monsters get out. It's like, why were there horrible monsters in the first place? So this is big. The star needs to take responsibility. So that is another thing that has happened. I give you the energetic weather report, like what is happening. So there's actually a lot of very positive things that are happening right now in terms of freeing human consciousness from the limitations that have been placed on humanity through genetic limitations, but also through perception, and we would call it the physical world, like only looking at and studying and appreciating and valuing what we see in the physical world without being able to perceive or value the non-physical world is what has held humanity in a limited or enslaved position. And or like in whatever I don't want to say victimized consciousness, oh my god, all these things, but these are the words that are coming to me. But I hope you guys are getting the energy of what I'm trying to say. It's looking at the world as merely a material world without understanding that there's all of these other energetic aspects that hold it together. And the energetic aspects are actually where your empowerment lie. So of course, those are the aspects that the rational skeptic denies or does not allow you to want to recognize as an intellect. Like there's a lot of blockages on the level of the human intellect. Please, fuck the human intellect. This is not a story or something in information that is directed at the intellect. All of this is about getting into pure insight that is, connected to the divine, guided by a higher librarian that tells you what you need to know. So that's what I've been having many experiences of over the past several weeks, like just in moments of clarity, because there are also like huge magnetic and genetic battles. So reality is very fluid because right now, our DNA is very fluid. There's all sorts of different possibilities that can happen. This can happen, this can happen. And of course, each one of us should be self-directed, creating what we want to create to happen. So yeah, it would not be very effective. It's like, okay, like create for yourself personal wealth. I really disregard a lot of the teachers that are on earth that are teaching that to people. Like, you're going to use a reality creation mechanism that you got that is sacred and holy because you just want to like go on a vacation or like get a little bit more money. Like, that is pure materialism and shows how limited their consciousness is. And materialism, it goes hand in hand with Satanism. The Satanism is the technology that is used to manipulate time. And we, the person that I am, people I invite you to be, Flying Rainbow Lasagna, my collective, we do not use technology to manipulate time. That is, in a polite way of saying, training wheels, but very, very harmful training wheels, like children using firecrackers and not understanding what they're doing. They're not supposed to jump off of their planet with space diapers and about you start doing stuff in time. They're supposed to get their shit together before they do anything on that level. So these are not only bloodthirsty monsters, but they're technologically augmented and artificially empowered. And of course, they have synthetic telepathy. So they have come to this planet. They've come here many times in the past, and the human form has been genetically modified many times in the past. So it can be hard once you start to have your awakening and more light comes into you. You start to look into your DNA. You're like, okay, who's here? And there might be some part that is reptilian that says, I'm here. And people might erroneously identify with it and say, ah, it is my true heritage. That's who my people are. And it's like saying that there are vestigial traces. It's like a chicken has a vestigial trace of a dinosaur ancestor or something like that. Like, there are many vestigial traces within the human form right now of many different star creatures that came here and manipulated artificially what is in the human genome at this point. So it's very, very challenging. And so this is the challenge that I'm here facing with all of you. And my tool that I have that I use is Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And I think it's becoming a very, very effective tool, because at this point, I've really sensed a change in where the energy goes. Like, it used to feel to me like the energy kept on being siphoned off to the membrane of death, even like against my best efforts. And now it really feels like the energy just goes directly where it needs to go, like jumping through time, going directly where it needs to go, regardless of any of these barriers. And it means that energy is now able, and consciousness is now able to flow in a way that the purely materialist beings, like, they cannot imagine this going in this way. Just like I related to you, that they're very limited in their understanding of technology. They're very limited in their ability to calculate. They're very limited in their perception of reality. They don't perceive all the things that we perceive. They totally, not only do they not feel like, heart, emotion. Let me just drink a little bit of juice. I have wonderful, freshly made fruit juice. Hold on. They don't feel like emotion. They don't feel unconditional love. They don't hear the music and the symphony of life. They only perceive a really tiny, limited, slice of reality. So to them, like, they watch me, with fake planes in the sky, like Aurora's sitting outside in her lawn chair, she's waving her arms and legs again. Like, that's the level of reality they're looking at. And I'm like, that is totally fine. It doesn't stop me from doing my dance. That also involves many more subtle layers of reality that are not available to these purely technologically based beings. So this is where the freedom lies. This is what I'm trying to invite and teach everyone to do. That I recognize this is a very locked down society where there is almost no way for you to truly rebel. There is almost no way for you to be free. There are very, very limited options. And I'm very sorry to give you the bad news, like the security blanket time. But this is truthful. And also, like, in terms of time, what I keep on perceiving is that the ones who want to consume humanity, like the ones who want to consume the ascension and take your consciousnesses and just like make them live in misery in a box endlessly, endlessly consumed. Those guys, I think that they keep on just wanting to drag things out. Like, oh, if we just push this down the road a little bit more and just tell them this paperwork will come out at some point, and then we'll tell them that this will happen at this point, and just kind of keep everything like on a low simmer, that's winning for them. That anything that keeps on dragging this out, because anyone that actually connects with divinity and becomes more purely structured and more whatever, immortal, more divine. That's like the last thing they want. And the more of us that do something like that, the less powerful they are, and the less powerful their level of reality is. Like I always say, first you transform your body. Well, this is what I'm inviting everyone to experience. Like, I know a lot of people are going through this because I read it on social media of people saying the different symptoms or whatever feelings they might be having, and also looking at the Schumann resonance and looking at all these things. It's collective birth contractions, and it is transformation on a genetic level. And it's that painting I'm always showing you, because we live on Earth, and Earth is transforming. Earth is doing the pole shift, the pole dancing. Pole dancing does not necessarily mean catastrophic upheaval. It does not mean fall on your face. It means twirl elegantly. Earth can twirl elegantly. So I give so much credit to my Earth container. Like I'm not separate from my body. I'm totally part of this body, and I've learned to use it with whatever frailties it has. And I think everybody needs to relate to this. Like everybody has something in their body that maybe it doesn't function perfectly or whatever, there's some limitation, but I know that there's a way to use higher layers of dimensional subtlety to supersede what is merely material. And that there can be really profound transformation, profound like things that you couldn't do before, all of a sudden becoming capable. So that can be anything from having an inner perception, like gaining more insight, or something that is athletic, or something where like maybe you never used to be able to move a body part, but now you can do that more easily, or some profound healing inside. And it's not happening because of the limits of the material world and the description of reality that would be medical science and objective materialism. It's happening because of something else. So this is why I'm encouraging everyone, like connect directly to pure light, pure information, pure energy. Energy comes through the stars, but like don't like worship the sun directly, but understand that it's this light, and that light totally supersedes the construct, which I would describe as the set of limitations that we are taught to look at the world. The construct, what people would call the matrix, that there really is a super intelligent light that can even pierce through all of what we're being shown that is a limited, a simulation of reality, and also highly manipulated. So it's not just like, if we did not have the sun simulator and the technological mind control and fibers in our body, there are still profound challenges, hurdles to jump over, to being able to ascend. And that's why there are these, kind of mythical stories of like that guy who ascended that time, because it was so incredibly difficult that they even sometimes build up a whole religion about these people. That, it's like, even in those times, 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, yeah, there were guys who ascended, and some of them just did it quietly, and some of them did it like in a way that they created a religion about them. And these are very real transformations. So the best type of transformation, though, so it's not just like, if you got the opportunity, like, hey, like you want to just turn into a light being and just like get the heck out of here, I want to say get the F out of here, kind of like get out of your cage. Or you can kind of like stick around and completely vibrate the cage so that it is no longer a viable container for any of these imprisoned consciousnesses, and do that across all time. I'd be like, well, I think I'm just going to just vibrate here just a little bit longer. And yes, so that's exactly what I'm encouraging everyone to think about, kind of not just like, oh, like good, like time for me to make a break for it. Like you can make a break for it, but also like, once you become this incredibly empowered being, you're like, well, now that nothing can harm you, and you could just, we can actually do some pretty amazing things. So that is what I'm encouraging everyone to focus on. There's very, very real intelligence. So let me also talk about what are the levels of control here in this world that we are experiencing. We definitely have biological containers, but those biological containers have been filled with technology, not just on a genetic level. So this is beyond what we experienced, let's say, in Buddha's time, or in the time of the historical Jesus. They had no chemtrails in the sky. They had no genetically modified food. genetically modified food that is horrible, horrible music. I will not mash the keyboard, but imagine that bad music that almost everybody eats in this time and place. I try to avoid it literally like the plague. Like once I read about what it was in 2006, I said, I will not eat this stuff because I knew that it was not right to put bad genes into your body if you are trying to go in a positive genetic direction. And I think that that is where so much of the disease and body being out of tune is coming from. So being exposed to bad music through genetically modified organisms, sprayed with chemtrails, and the chemtrails do make like a network or a fiber inside. And so one of the positive things is like, you know, I have seen them as fibers floating in my eyes for a very, very, very long time. And now that I'm doing a lot of this flying rainbow lasagna, bypassing of energy, you know, not allowing any of it to be stolen, I'm finding I can run more RAM. Like it takes an incredible amount of processing power to keep the body healthy in the way that we're supposed to keep it healthy. And what's been happening is our attention and life force energy and ability to calculate, like on a biological level, keeps on being siphoned off by these beings. If you can stop the siphoning off, you get access to all of that stuff that's actually your stuff, and you can actually start to heal and restructure your body. So I've been able to do a lot of that type of work in this body just over the past week. And I'm encouraging everyone else to do the similar type of thing. Like, even though it's really difficult and we have all of these inhibitions, jump over the hurdles, take the moments as they come. Because I know that there's waves and people might be experiencing them at different times. Like, I don't know how the time is through different continents and where people are living, but it does seem that there are like moments where there are really high energy moments and everyone is feeling it. Some people are feeling it differently, and I definitely have felt some of these at times it's like such a battle and it is so exhausting. Some nights I have to go to bed at like 7:30 p.m. and literally sleep until 7:30 in the morning. That is completely not normal for me to do at all. And so sometimes it takes a lot of sleep to integrate these things. And I look at all of this as the events that we are, you know, experiencing as individuals or like all together on Earth, as the narrative structure of reality changes. Like, what does your intellect need to be told in order to understand that we are not in the normal world anymore? We are not in the same world. So also, like, you might have to recalibrate your desires and expectations. What level of simulation is it here? The laws of physics are still the laws of physics. So it's different than, let's say, if you were uploaded into a San Junipero, a complete virtual reality world that's completely computer simulation. If there's distant mountains, they might just be pixelated distant mountains. And if you really zoomed in at a certain point, you might see the pixelation. Or if it's something that's a black backdrop, the machine just repeats the black pixel, the same black pixel, but in reality, there are subtle shades of brown, black, and other, you know, varieties in a black painting or something like that, so that machines don't actually repeat that. So reality is slightly dumbed down. We're not at that level of simulation yet. So it's like, let's say you dump out a bucket of rocks. The bucket of rocks will still fall in a pattern that can be, let's say, divinely or higher dimensionally influenced. The things that would be considered too much to actually create effectively, like the way that smoke swirls naturally in a room, or these types of incredibly complex motions that it's hard to simulate, or it takes an incredibly amount of processing power in order to try to replicate what we're seeing in reality. So those things truly exist. And what is truly being controlled is human behavior, human thought, and human perception. And that makes up a whole big part of your life. Like, you know, it's like, okay, great, the laws of physics are the laws of physics, but they're just controlling people's behavior, and that is very, very much what is going on. But also think about this. If you start to question reality and you see something that is video, like that video is easily created. It is not necessarily representative of physical reality. You must be extremely skeptical of what is being presented to you, even in terms of having a persona be presented to you. Now you're like, Aurora, are you even real? Yes, I am real. And people from this class have met me in person, or we've eaten snacks together, and you met my dog. So yes, I'm definitely a real person. But yeah, there are some whatever bot-like programs or, you know, personalities that are in videos or that are, you know, parading as a persona that are not actually a persona at all. And then there are also many hand puppets of, an AI controlled, it's a technological society that has invaded this world. So it invaded many times, and this is like one of the final invasions. They're like, oh, good, we're just going to scoop up all the stupid people who want to like go on board of metal saucers, or, think about a technological utopia. That's the word that I keep looking for, because I'm like, I use very loose language when I talk about like, there are med beds and this and that in my rants. I'm talking about a technological utopia that is the dangling carrot for the enslaved human. And I don't want you to reach for that, because I want you to be smarter and to understand, first of all, they've got you enslaved to this point. They're not going to give you more freedom. They're always going to be dangling the carrot of more freedom. Like, you will learn more and we will this and that. Like, no, they're never going to let you get up to their level. They're never going to let you supersede them. They'll dole out the technology to you, always kind of like some big parent, because that's the way they've been treated too. And all of this is a distortion of who you're really supposed to be as a creative being. Like, imagine if you couldn't really paint what you really wanted to paint. If it's like, oh, if I could only get some orange and I just could paint what I really want to paint. It's like, well, no, like, I got to get permission from this guy and do this, and then I can get this possibly, and I can do this. That is not what creative artistry is supposed to be like. I'm supposed to have permission to play like any of the keys on the piano keyboard that I want to play. I should not have to requisition something or ask for someone's permission to be able to do this. Here, wait, let me just drink a little bit. So what is the solution? The solution is not like a violent type of revolution. That is not effective, even though I know that there are many places where they do resistance movements, where they're literally, are throwing tear can gases and every kind of thing like that. Like, I understand that that is perceived as like a fight for freedom, but my fight for freedom is a different type of fight. And it is like a dance. And they think that it is stupid, and that's like the perfect cover. Because you're totally nonviolent. This is the whole point, guys. Like, you live in a society where they literally can take you away. They can, control your life in many uncomfortable ways. People have to watch what they say. It's totally the big brother world that everyone is so concerned about. You know what they can't stop you from doing? Dancing. This is like the only sane thing to do. Not that I'm not a person who's like, get organized and, do this and that. Like, that is fantastic to do activism, but here's the problem. Most of the activism has been siphoned off to the parasites. That mostly the chanting in the streets has been a manufactured, like, parasite versus parasite, rock'em sock'em robots, not organic grassroots people. And very unfortunately, most of the organic grassroots emotional energy that should be put for change was siphoned off into the Q movement. And the Q movement, if it ever was authentic, if it ever was an authentic leaker, became a psyop, became a way of manipulating people to always wait until the future. And it was always something big was going to happen next week and something big next week. And now it has become the perfect pacifier, the perfect security blanket that I have to say again and again, like, it should be fully discredited. That this does not make me, well, actually, no, I am an unpatriotic person, because here is what should actually happen. You should not preserve the republic. You should not preserve any aspect of your current government structure, because the entire international government is run by people who have been traitors to humanity in selling humanity's children, like their sexual energy, and also like adults, to off-planet entities, to beings who eat frequency. That the real economy in this world mirrors the economy of hell, in that it is not based on oil, it is not based on some material, gold, something like that. It is based on energy, the energy of misery. It is intentionally set up like the game of musical chairs, where somebody is going to go home crying. There are intentional, whatever I want to say, like ratchets, like, mechanisms that create poverty, crushing poverty over here, soaring wealth over here, huge income indiscrepancies. All of that is intentional. It's the game of musical chairs done intentionally, not from humans to themselves, from non-humans to humans to themselves. And the people who are complicit with it are the people who get really, really rich, but they also can no longer even be described as human. Because at this point, people can have so much AI, black goo, nano wetware, whatever you would like to call it, so much technology in them, willingly running the show inside of them. Like they ain't resisting. They're like, we've joined the Borg, it's fabulous. They really think it too. They really think that they're somehow like die Ubermensch or super person or something special. They really think that they're like augmented, and that's great. So you gotta understand, people love their parasites. They don't want to give up their parasites. They think it's great, and all of that is appropriate, because if they have those vulnerabilities, like those personality characteristics, they're like, yeah, that sounds great, I'm gonna join the Borg. Then you don't want them playing music with us. Seriously, they will not play good music. The music is the music of pure creation. We have a generative field around us. And right now we're in these biological bodies. But I want you to consider, like, what would it be like to be a star, to be an abstraction, to be a non-embodied person, but we're still using our minds and we're still sending off energy and receiving energy and doing things on that level. That's, you know, the type of journey that we're on. So we're not on a journey through a clank metal spaceship. We are not wearing space diapers. We are still eating physical food, but all the food that we're eating is a mental program. It is a thought form that had to be created. So we understand that we're eating created thought forms. But really, when this light of consciousness pierces through the limitations that have been placed here, you start to understand that you just need more light. So we just need more light. It's not like you don't stop eating, you keep eating, and that's what being born is. Because remember I said you get born from your mama's tummy because there's not enough food in there. You're hungry for like real food, like mushed up pears or something like that. We are hungry for real light. And real light is real information. Here, wait, let me drink. Oh, I want to tell, like, oh, people are so bamboozled. I know. Like people who want light so much that they'll, like, you know, pay these channelers or pay whomever, you know, fraudulent people that just have ego problems. They just want to be special and like stand up on a stage. They're like, yeah, like I'll lie, do whatever, like just, you know, pay me money, whatever. Like people really want that because they're really hungry for light. Light is information and knowing and awareness. Like, so you would pay someone else to tell you who you were in a past life. Like you should see who you were in a past life. You should not have someone else reveal that to you, truthfully or untruthfully. That is for you to explore within yourself. That's a very intimate process. And to involve someone else and their possible reality projections or what they're seeing unclearly through their various layers, like that's like a huge trust issue. I have huge issues. I know I have huge issues. I'm joking, but seriously. I think that we should, you know, deploy skepticism against that type of stuff, because that's not good intimacy. That's like inappropriate intimacy. So, you know, when there are beings that come from a foreign planet that should not, they're wearing their space diapers, they're only using technology. It's the only way that they can even get here and be here interacting with us. We're not supposed to interact. We are totally like two flavors that are not supposed to interact genetically, but they have put themselves not only on our planet. It's not like, oh, they just live in an underground base, or they just live in a little bubble, or they just circulate around the edges or something like that. They're not just around the edges. They're part of the gooey middle, all right? No, they're in your actual DNA, all right? So like one example that I can give to you is the need to eat food. Like we used to be light eaters. Let me drink more. Clearly I eat, I drink, you know, everything. That's because I'm in this body that is a genetically modified body, just like all of you guys have one too. And we have an alimentary tract that is actually like part reptilian. You could think of it like a dragon. Like it is part of that, just like you have a brain stem that is part of a dragon. It's like, you know, the reptile aspect of you. It doesn't mean that's all that you are. It means that those are part of the progenitors that created your container. So those are the very beings that block you out from light, and then they will then make you feel guilty for having to eat other organisms. And to me, that from what I've perceived internally, that is mainly what is going on with veganism, vegetarianism. It's the sense that there is a guilt that is being portrayed from the peanut gallery that wants to steal your food. So first they steal your food like just through attentiveness. Like, you know, you're watching TV or driving your car or doing something like that while you're eating. That is stealing your food because your attention is not on your food. But it's also whatever conversation with your larynx, your food being eaten with your larynx, you're having internally with whatever members of the peanut gallery, because they have genetically modified you to be able to listen to them, but they're not gods, they're just assholes, and they talk all the time. And when I say that they're part of the intelligence agency, they're literally part of the intelligence agencies. Like, to them, information is something that is a weapon. And so being able to activate your inner eye and see and know things beyond the material world to them is like very, very valuable. And they try to take that and use it and weaponize it in any way they possibly can, but they don't want total light. Total light would be, hey, let's open up the curtains and let the sun shine. But they don't want that, because that would be totally empowering to you to the point where you would not be burned alive. You would be like, hey, this sunlight tastes so good. I feel fantastic. Now I'm like a god, you know, like that. And I'm paraphrasing here, hyperbole. But that's kind of like what I'm trying to say is happening to us. You don't have to be afraid of this thing that this technology is blocking out. You don't have to be like, oh no, I'm not worthy enough. Like, that's maybe a thing that I have felt with some feedback from people from what I speak about in this class. There's always questions of people are like, am I worthy? Like, am I good enough? Like, am I going to burn in hell? Like, there's such a heavy sinner programming. And what I'm experiencing personally is just like sheer joy. And as I'm claiming my energy back, I'm like, I feel better and better. I feel more and more and more joyful. Like, to the point that I think like I'm annoying to other people because I am so joyful. And yeah, like I walk down the street with my little dog, like we're having a great time. And these things are, you know, like trying to, steal my energy, and I will not allow that to happen. And so I'm like, joyously fighting. I think we have to be that way. And I think that when you break the tape, when you complete the marathon, like when you're at that culminative moment, like this should not be a huge effort. It should not be like, like Wonder Woman or something like that, where like constantly fighting against people and constantly shielding yourself. It's not supposed to be that way. Like the fact that we are doing this type of birth or this type of collective reality creation while under such heavy attack is totally monumental. I mean, it is really amazing. I will just affirm over and over. Sometimes my words don't even work in being able to say this. What we're experiencing is incredibly difficult. It is different than if someone was trying to, like shoot you with a gun or something like that. That is easy to see. And the mammalian and animalistic part of you is very clear. You're like, get the F out of here. Like, that is not right. Very, very different when something is manipulating you genetically. Like if it holds up a little shield, little technological shield that says, I'm your friend. But it's really a horrible, horrible monster, but it holds up the shield saying, I'm your friend, while it like reaches inside of your brain and like scrambles it like scrambled eggs. That's, the most horrible thing in the world. And that is exactly what is going on. And of course, I'm like exaggerating and I'm making this, like not sad, but this is very sad. What is going on is very sad. And every day that goes by, it doesn't get easier. Because more and more people get injected with like the flu vaccine, which is totally mind control crap. Guess what? Your television is connected to all of it. Yes, rational skepticism is like, Aurora is crazy pants. But you guys know that this is truthful. You know it. Come on. So yeah, it would be, if it were only one ranting madman, that would be different. But there's so many of us that know this and so much information to confirm this. So perhaps that can speak to the rational skeptic. But again, don't make this conversation for the intellect. We know the intellect is hijacked. We know the intellect is not effective in being able to understand and perceive what is happening on a multidimensional level. So I invite everyone to like throw the intellect out the window, because it's like so ineffective that it is only tripping everything up from being able to flow. So please don't constantly be like, hey, wait, I'm starting to feel super great. Let my intellect totally ruin it. You're starting to feel super great. Please go into higher dimensional perceptions. And if you have higher dimensional perceptions, and of course, like I'm encouraging everyone to like be as natural as you can be. Like I'm not telling you to like drop it. Like it's not like, it's time to take that hit of acid I've been saving since the 60s. Like, no, it is not time to drop that hit of acid. It's actually time to be your most natural self. That's what it is to be an undomesticated human. You actually don't need anything other than light. So they've just been blocking out the light and trying to keep you enslaved. Flying rainbow lasagna is one way to get to the light and eat what you want to eat, even though they try to block it out. So that's the best way I can say it. And I'm super serious when I talk about this, that it is a genetic vibration that allows you access to a higher dimensional reality where you're not as limited in terms of the information and light that you can be exposed to. And you can eat and accrete light from there because it's been so difficult to be able to get through the other channels. All these other ways have been blocked, and none of that is fair. So yeah, so big changes is that the beings that have been saying, well, we'll just use entropy, like slowly stealing your peanut butter and jelly sandwich so that I can slowly fall off a cliff over 5,000 years, that is no longer acceptable. That's the whole point. Like if I invented this shape that involves entropy, it is a direct trip to entropy. No one's going to legalese this. Seriously, I'm very, very clear. No one's going to co-opt the lasagna and use it in any way to, make worse music. This is all about making better music. And entropy is a positive option because the other option would be to exist in a world where there's no food, there's no way for you to access any energy. Think about like the idea of being stranded with no gas, as far away from any gas station as you can possibly be. That is where they would be stuck in terms of consciousness. If they couldn't go to entropy, like unity consciousness, like a Bose-Einstein super dense place of no movement. But that means being frozen. That definitely means a state of non-being. Being frozen in a state of non-being. Not talking there from the membrane of death. No, not saying anything, not affecting you with a magnetic field. No, no, no to all of that. That's so exhausting. We are supposed to be at the point in the symphony where we are actually creating beautiful music. We are supposed to be past all of the bullshit. This is why I'm like, this is so exhausting. Oh my God, let me just drink. Then we'll go to the chat. Thank you for allowing me this rather informal way of giving class. I know that I'm not being very structured and I tend to jump around. Okay, back to the beginning. Judy says, what about many quote-unquote teachers that have clearing prayers that include having a prayer of entities going to light or having Christ escort them to light, etc.? That never really resonated with me. Yeah, well, okay. It's so hard with language. When people are saying Christ, a lot of people aren't talking about like Christ consciousness or this awakened aspect of inner being, so that's why it's hard to tell. And in light of the way that language is being used often to hijack our true intentions, when people do some kind of a group prayer or something like that, like I just usually don't participate. And sometimes I even use my dog as an excuse, like if people are making a circle or whatever, because I'm just too polite, because I've been trying to fit on earth and like make friends and whatnot. But like if I was just totally impolite, I'd be like, no, I do not want to swim in the same energetic jacuzzi as all of you guys, because some of you have toenail fungus. And I do not want to get that, all over me. That's the truth. So these group prayers also make me feel uncomfortable because I don't know who they're being directed to, who they're being directed by, whether they're being siphoned off. Same thing with like group meditation. There are some people that are like UFO enthusiasts and they're like, we're going to do a group meditation for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who are we group meditating with? And like, do you guys have toenail fungus? And so I'm very concerned about and when I say that, being lighthearted, but I'm talking about parasites. Talking about cooties. That's a better word for it. Yeah, they've got cooties. They've got problems. And many of their problems came in when they artificially augmented their inner eye, saw a bunch of information that was distorted. People have all sorts of crazy ideas about who and what space aliens are and what is their agenda and what they're like. Like people are not able to perceive accurately. I'm sorry, I'm just needing to drink a little bit here. I mean, it does make me feel upset because I can perceive accurately what's going on. And I'm like that guy's not a good guy, but like lots of people are like listening to him. Like it's because people can't see clearly. And you try to talk to them about it or you try to speak about it. And it's like a farce where people cannot actually even use language to communicate effectively, or like everybody is drunk or stoned or something. There is some problem at being able to actually just like, can you just even listen to me and hear what I'm saying? Like very, very difficult problems. So I know that you guys can relate to this. I know that there are problems with people being able to actually have a conversation on social media, to actually even feel a sense of energetic friendship and connection across the digital world. And so, part of the whole lockdown of society is that that people, instead of socializing over the past 10 or 15 years, have turned only to the digital world. In some ways, it's beautiful because I can have people who are in Australia who are my friends. I have beautiful people in this class who are from almost every continent and many different time zones, and like people who are geographically distant, who I never would get to see physically. So I'm super happy about that. But also, a lot of people use this form of communication in place of completely any kind of real physical interaction. And what that means is that it's like you're starting to accept less and less food as real food, which is exactly what GMO is. That is like when the food actually has a sugar content or a nourishment structure or a carbohydrate structure. There's definitely carbohydrate strands in there, but it does not contain intelligence and life force energy. So there's definitely some materialism there, but it doesn't contain the real energy that you need. That's craziness. That's like if they sold you empty gas. Like I was saying, some empty gasoline. You can put it in your car, but it won't actually make your car go. That is what that food is like. It's like some kind of substance, but it doesn't actually have light in it. So, and all of this is intentional. And I had to learn, like, some people are embracing it. Some people are just like on the long, slow decline, you know, like, woo, like going to hell in a handbasket, I don't care, eat my Twinkies, like they just don't care. Some people are that way, and that's totally fine. And then there's some people who are totally raging against the machine, totally trying to be free in any way possible. And, you know, in any way, I use food as a big one because I think it's one of the things that, like, it's what we run our body on. And it's one of the things that we can actually control, even though it's expensive. Like, try to find things that are good, that are not sprayed with, you know, like even you want to get a potato, like instead of eating French fries that are sprayed with stuff, like just get a potato, you make your own. But they are also sometimes sprayed with a growth inhibitor so that they don't sprout in the grocers when they're sitting on the shelf. So you have to like only get it from a specific place, a specific type of potato that is not a genetically modified one. And it like shopping in this time and place is its own type of warfare. Like, you need to be a super soldier just to go to the grocery store and buy things that are not soaked in glyphosate, sprayed with some kind of growth inhibitor retardant, genetically modified, filled with sugar, even natural cane sugar. Like, it is so hard to, and why not sugar? Because sugar, it feeds, I mean, I've been avoiding it because of neurological issues. Some people avoid it because of candida overgrowth, and candida is absolutely a parasite, and it affects human behavior. Like, you get cravings. And also, like, when people say the peanut gallery siphons off your energy to the membrane of death, a lot of people get a sugar craving. They're like, I need candy now. Like, you need candy now because they just stole your energy, and candy gives you a temporary little lift. Like, that's what they do. And you can have all the dead husk of the material can go to your, you know, fatty deposits of your body. They don't want that. They want the energy. And then they'll make you keep on eating and keep on stealing it. And oh, just very briefly, and I want to talk to more of what the conversation is in the chat. But I know today is Halloween, and happy Halloween, and I'm not wearing a fun costume, even though I dress like this every day. But I had to buy some little candies or something because kids come to my neighborhood, and I gave them apples one year, and their faces were just like crushed. So I'm like, I can't disappoint the kids. And I tried to find some little chocolates that are like, you know, at least like not done by slave labor or something like that at the little treat store. So, you know, I'm carrying them home in my bag on a little dog walk. And they're talking to me from inside of my bag. And guys, I don't eat chocolates like this. I don't eat like kids' candy, junk food. But I'm carrying them home. I'm like, wow, I'm getting kind of hungry. And instead of fantasizing about like my nice healthy food that I have at home and everything like that, the chocolates are talking to me. The genetically modified chocolates. Like, I'm sorry, kids. Like, I'm sorry that I got that for you, or that I'm putting that out for you. Like, these are my options here. There aren't good options. But it talks to your DNA. Food that is not good for you, and you hold it externally to you, and it'll talk to your DNA even before you put it in your mouth. And it'll say, I'm supposed to be inside of you. Yeah, I really am. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I only bought you for the kids. That's that whole meme that you think you're buying the candy for the kids, and then you buy it and you eat it yourself, and then the kids, I gotta buy extra candy for the kids. That's that whole meme. So it tried to get me with that. I'm like, no, like that, I don't eat that stuff. Like, I eat like carrots and good stuff. So there really is something to this. How strong is your willpower in this time and place? How much are you able to maintain your own true pathway without being diverted into something that you know is not actually the real you? And I think the areas of ill health that people experience are because they compromise their real self. either through what they ate or through their activity or inactivity. Like sometimes it was things you did, like you should not have moved your back in that way. You should not have lifted that thing in that way. And that is why your back is shaped that way. But sometimes it was things you didn't do. Like maybe you did not walk up the stairs every day and that's why you are shaped that way. And or other things that can be changed and it's because you're domesticated. The reason why a lot of people are not physically active is because they're domesticated and then they want to, eat the food that is talking to them that's genetically modified and remain seated in an inactive position. And that's like being hamstrung. That is literally like, not to be too hyperbolistic in what was done physically to human slaves in terms of torment, which was incredibly horrible. There are similar levels of consciousness reduction that are being done to humanity right now through frequency weapons, and food contamination, and vaccines is another big part of it. And those things don't get better the longer you wait. This is my urgency that I bring to you. That it's not like, oh, well, let's wait for some paperwork next week, and then maybe somebody will do something, and then maybe someone will have a meeting, and then there will be a strongly worded letter. Like all of those things keep on pushing your expectation down the road, and none of those things are for your actual benefit. And I think that they win by just having more and more people picked off, like soldiers die of attrition, like a war of attrition. That's like, well, your soldiers are gonna die of like getting sick, their feet got frostbite, like they ran home or whatever. Like that's how you win a war, because people like fall off a cliff and they give up. And there's a lot of people who are feeling that sense of hopelessness. It should be divine discontent. It should be what motivates you to do the electron jump. But some people are thinking like, oh, like it's the end, my friend, it's the end. And I'm saying like, well, it's the end if you're a materialist. If you're an objective materialist and you're just like, oh, it's all about the physical body. Like, I think there are a lot of people who are like technology worshiping atheists, and they think that it's just all about the physical body. And they think that the consciousness cannot reside independent of the brain. If you lose your brain, you lose your consciousness. And if you can't put it into some kind of a microchip or like freeze your head and send it into space, then you're going to just be gone forever. And it's like, oh my God, like I can't even relate to that limited level of reality perception, because I know that that's not true. So those are the people that are part of the reality that is limited intentionally by these invaders. And those people will never admit to their invasion. They will never admit. You cannot talk to them and say, hey, these guys invaded and this is what's going on. They'll be like, you crazy pants. Seriously. And it takes a great deal of social strength, because here, like, you might not be physically enchained, but you can be socially enchained in terms of who will hire you. What's your social credit rating? What's your physical credit rating? What's your this and that? Like, there are so many things, because I'm not conforming in terms of having one name, just one name, Aurora. Like, there's a lot of paperwork that does not work properly. That is quite unusual in my case. Hold on a second. Because I'm not conforming. And if you dare to not conform, you might have something like not be able to get a credit card. Like, I can't get a credit card because my first name is technically no first name, okay? Like, that's it. So I pay for things as I can afford them. I don't have a credit card. That's fine. I'm able to still live my life. But these are like ways of keeping people conforming and domesticated. And you don't have to be domesticated. But what does a non-domesticated human look like? Does it look like a wild person, like with a machete, like splattering things everywhere? No, it does not look like anything like that. It does not look like whatever, some kind of Kill Bill movie or something like that. It looks like a fully healthy human that is completely creative, like able to create reality, not only able to create an art or a music project, but able to create reality, able to create events, able to, and also like, at peace with oneself, so not in competition with others who are creating, and able to effectively mesh together creations, what I just described as like being a decent musician. If you're like not so into yourself that you can't even listen to someone else play, but you got something to add to the band, and you are good at what you do, and you play, and you let someone else do their thing. You mesh it together. It's rapport and it's respect. It's like, being a healthy person, because you can also I can play on my own. That's fine. I'll do my own thing. I'll be a star. I'll make my own little planetary structure around my star. But if you want to have beings from your planet interact with beings from another planet. This is like a very, very big deal, and it should only be done in the right way. And it should not be done in this way that it has been done on Earth. This has been totally disruptive. So yeah, so what we're doing right now is setting things correcting things. We're having the rectification. And the rectification, the events here are like a template that can then resonate to other places that are similarly enslaved or limited or domesticated. And it's the thing that is feared the most. It's feared way more than like projectile weapons or something like that. This is this frequency dance that you can do with your own body. Like eat a bunch of non-contaminated food, get as much sunlight as you possibly can, and do a frequency dance, all right? Like this is how you win the war that you are in. And I'm encouraging everyone to do it right now, because it doesn't get easier the longer you wait. The longer you wait, the more infected zombies, let's just call them that. This, you know, you cannot have a conversation with someone who's an infected zombie and their face is falling off. Like some people really believe in the flu shot and they get it every year. They got to get their zombification drugs and they watch mainstream media on the television every day and they're infected zombies and their faces are falling off and you cannot stand there and have a conversation with them. Because like you're gonna get maggots on you, and also like they're not gonna understand things. All right, you just have to accept that. This whole thing, like I'm telling you, that red pilling the masses or whatever, that somehow that's going to make this level of reality more palatable. First of all, we're superseding the level of reality that is being offered as a dangling carrot by the people that want to red pill the masses. The idea of merely moderate levels of justice, moderate swamp draining, but still maintaining international government structure. And there's levels of secrecy that have hidden things that cannot be hidden anymore. And what they hid was the fact that humans have not really been running the economy or international events, that it's all been highly orchestrated or engineered by beings that don't have bodies, cannot be defined as humans, and control humans like as domesticated slaves. That these are beings that have been running the joint. Seriously, grab your security blanket. This is not a fun story, but you would rather know the truth and you would rather want to be empowered than to have some stupid person come on the television, the YouTube, and tell you like, oh, you're perfectly safe. There, dear. Just lie quietly. You're there. Like, that's horrible. That is horrible because no, you're being totally exploited in the worst possible way it's possible to be exploited. And also these beings, what they'll do is they'll offer you a tiny crumb. They'd be like, I will offer you this free energy device, but what you really should have is access to all of the energy of the entire cosmos, because you're a divine being connected to this, amazing network through your physical body. You're supposed to be able to have so much more than what they are offering to you. So they'll be like, I'll give you replicator machine, you make your chocolate espresso. No, you're supposed to be able to have literally any type of food you want as a thought broadcast. Like you can just eat pure light and that's very sustaining. But let's say like, oh, I want the entertainment because people eat for entertainment and olives are delicious. What did things taste like? And I tell you this all the time, my teaching about like fried chicken. Fried chicken is awesome. And I had some one time and here's what it tasted like. And I recorded that with my taste buds. And chefs of the mind can share this with each other. It is not like you have nothing to eat. You have everything to eat. Everything that a person has ever eaten in a fancy restaurant or at the best barbecue. Like sometimes like the most humble food is the best food. I had very good like grilled sardines one time. Or like whatever, campfire, bacon over a campfire, any of these things. These are like humble food that can be an amazing experience and someone can give you that experience. So these are not like lesser experiences as you move into a higher dimensional or less physical or semi-physical or light-based state. These are great expansions. And this is what you're supposed to be doing. So the same guys that look down on you, they're like, you horrible bloodthirsty humans, look at you with your abattoirs. Look at you killing a baby lamb. It's a lamb and you're eating its leg. Like they're telling you that you're bad. Well, guess what? These are the guys that implanted your alimentary tract. These are the guys that made you have to run on, like whatever, semi-fermented meats and vegetables in your guts. These are the guys that made your bodies no longer light eaters and block out the light. And they dole out this to you and then they say, you are bad for eating it. And there's no way to like eat in a way that does not kill something. That is part of what happens at this level of what I say is degradation. But I don't want you guys to think like you're bad, you're horrible, you're rotten, greasy, stinky. Like, no, not like that at all. And the body is an opportunity, and you get to change it and transform it. And so whatever you've got going on, that's like the starting off point, and then you get to change and modify, and it's your art project. Your body is completely your art project, and that's something that no one else is supposed to be able to control or dictate to you, or dictate what is right or wrong. And it's also not supposed to be something that you're not taking away from someone else's freedom by being your true self. Like imagine like a great part of human domestication is body posture. Like sometimes like to, sit up straight, or to, stretch your body, or do what feels physically comfortable to your body, or to run, or, do something that is like considered socially inappropriate. These are lockdown things. These are social lockdown things where you're not actually free. So there are things where it's like you're not allowed to do it because it's socially inappropriate. There are things where you're not allowed to do it because it's actually literally illegal. And there are things where you're not allowed to do things in this time and place because it will make you vulnerable to surveillance. So there are things like it's not good to say, or it's not good to go places, or it's not good to do because someone's going to be watching you. And then whatever, that information could implicate you or somehow be used against you or whatever. And that's what I mean about weaponized information. So who runs the intelligence agencies? It's the same the technology using space races who are literally led as a collective by a type of artificial intelligence. And you could say that that's their god, and they definitely have crazy manias in their religiosity of what they are, where they came from. Like they had this whole crazy fucked up narrative. Don't even taste the poop. You just know it's poop. It is like, it's psychopathology. You don't have to get into the mind of the serial killer. And I greatly, greatly despise any of those types of movies and books and stuff like that. It's like, why would you want to take the greatest like scanning electron microscope and look into the worst brain in the world, like the most violent psychopath? Like, why would you want to take all of that information to find out every little reason why he's just so bad? Like, why don't you take the greatest person? Why don't you take the person who's like the most amazing piano player, or the most amazing artist, or who has done the most amazing things with their life, and say, let's examine their life in minute detail? Like, why in the world the fascination with psychopathology and figuring that out? And there's a lot of baby wah-wah. Like the psychopath itself is like, wah, therapize me. It's like, no, ain't gonna therapize you. Send you to entropy directly. Big things when it comes to you, when the thing comes to you, and it's like, wah, I know I'm a psychopath. I know I'm sick. Therapize me. It's like, no. What do you do with the zombie whose face is hanging off? Do you send it to therapy? No. You send it to entropy. This is big. Taking energy away from it. You do not conversationally do this. You do it with the dance of your body. And it's basically making yourself impervious to these genetic attacks so that you can actually accrete the light that you need to accrete in order to jump into the next state of being. This is literally what is going on today, tomorrow, the next day, until you actually break the tape, until you actually get there. And I'm rooting for everyone to get there. And the alternative is go into the artificial virtual reality that they're offering as a secondary dangling carrot, because, well, at least you're not dead. Like, at least you're not, like, you're in a walking death, zombified state. Total zombified state. Don't think that there's any amount of freedom in a simulation world that they would offer to you. That's another big, lie, is that they would ever say, we'll give you tons of freedom. If you just go in this box, we'll give you much more freedom. But we just can't give you enough freedom in this present state that you're in. Because what it also does is the, primary consciousness that is a psychopath fractures its consciousness into many different like miniature aspects of self, and then has the different disassociated aspects of self fight against itself. So it's always self-sabotaging, but if you just need to give it any therapy, it's like it's fighting against itself, and just like it's just supposed to self-destruct. It's just supposed to stop being in existence, because these are characteristics that are not part of the symphony of life. They're literally destruction. They're the antithesis of life. I'm just going to pause the recording for a moment. Thank you. Okay, I'm back for more questions. Going to go right back to where we were. Angel says, You've mentioned before that we have been every possible incarnation. In that case, we've been the Pleiadians, Arcturians, Greys, Reptilians, so technically we are our oppressors as well, multidimensionally speaking. If that is the case, then each of us has a collective of past and future selves, that is all of us, which we call our multidimensional soul self. Can we gain wisdom by embodying and speaking with that multidimensional self collective, or is the goal to accept and transcend the higher self in order to become a beautiful composer? I would say that there are so many presumptions in the description of reality that you put in there that I can like almost not entangle it. So it's not a totally accurate description of reality. And I think that it's very easily distorted viewpoint or stance, because the Greys and the Reptilians, they'd be like, well, we're your ancestors, come aboard our flying saucers. We'll take you, whether you like it or not. You're our family members. Or how about we get access to your mind and your brain because you're our family members. Like there's just a lot of things in there that I have to say they are horrible, horrible people who will use a belief system to force themselves inside of you. So please be super cautious of anything where it allows entry for something that is not really you into you. And so, I know there's a lot of people that describe themselves as star seeds or this or that. And in truth, I really leave them be. I really mind my business and allow them to go where they want to go. And if they think that they're going back home on flying metal saucers, like totally go in that direction, because that's where they're supposed to go. But that is not the direction that I advocate for freedom. But I don't want people to be going into a virtual reality that is not a positive place to be. So like I was speaking about previously, what is happening is technology is being transcended. And the very first thing is when the technology runs on your consciousness here in this limited simulation level of reality that is known as the material world. And it's a game of musical chairs where people are always dying, and there's lots of sadness and other things that are happening due to lack of perception. And if this were a perfect utopian world, there would be no energy for them to run their technological empire. That's big, because if they're dangling the carrot of a virtual reality that is like a technological utopia, or even a biological reality that is a technological utopia. Just imagine like an artificial intelligence will run everything and it'll be great. It's never going to be a utopia because their system cannot run without misery. It's always got to be a dystopia. And it doesn't get better, it gets worse. Like they're like, we're just gonna make you feel worse and worse and worse. So yeah, there's different types of torture. There's torture that's like, actual jabbing with pitchforks. And there's torture that's psychological torture. There's torture that is emotional torture. There's torture that is, different levels of diminishment and victimization. And that is what they like to do. And that is what runs their empire. So the best thing you can do is to not give them that energy and instead be your true self. And yes, even in this limited or lockdown society, you say, how can I be my true self? Well, you know something? Let's say you're meant to be a musician, but limited in some way. There are so many social, cultural, economic reasons why people that have great talent aren't able to do it. But you still take out your guitar and like go to the street corner, or to like go to a park or go to whatever. Just kind of like put yourself there and then just play your stuff. That is the example. It's like being who you really are, even if you don't have a record contract, a limousine, like the things that people associate with being a well-known musician. You achieve levels of your own personal excellence, and you give your own personal performance and kind of, create the forum for yourself. And none of this is just like you're grand in your own mind. You really have to understand that each moment of your life is painted upon you and is very clear. So if you give a beautiful performance, a beautiful impromptu performance, like singing on the street corner, it's not like, oh, nobody heard that. It's actually imprinted upon your body as like a thing that you did. So just as I'm talking about a telepathic society where I could share my fried chicken with you, you can see that performance. You can see that person doing those things. So these are the levels of artistry that are possible. When you think like, oh, you're just like sitting around like wearing your bathrobe and like whatever, doing whatever things that are not glamorous and no one's looking or whatever, or you can also think of those aspects of your life. I mean, it's good to have downtime, but you can also be like, yes, like what you do, everything. When you get more processing power, everything you do is a beautiful performance, like the way you move your body and the way you speak, and you can even make everything into a song, but it's mostly mental connection, and everything that you do is a fun artistic project that is an exploration or something new, as opposed to the same mechanical, repetitive, that's what it is, the repetitive things that the domesticated humans do every day. And that's being a good domesticated human, like you go to your coffee shop or you go to work and do the things that you have to do to earn the money for the kibble in your food bowl. It's like, that is what you're supposed to do. And it's such a mediocre slice of reality compared to what you're supposed to be doing in terms of creating magnificent realities and sharing and collaborating with others. Like, I would not want anyone to take the limited view. We're like, oh yeah, cool. Like, we'll still live in a world that has some kind of money, but it's some kind of quantum money, some kind of free energy devices. We still have to, obey the laws of physics. People still can get sick and die. Like this, that doesn't sound like a total utopian freedom world. That sounds like a world where there will still be the same challenges at this level, but just magnified on a different scale. And that's literally what these technological societies are. When I joke about them being in space diapers, what I'm trying to say is that they have levels of immaturity or aspects of self that are unresolved, or things that are not ready to come out and meet the world. And those things are just being portrayed on a larger and larger and larger scale. Like, they got mommy issues, they got daddy issues, they got ego issues, they feel bad about themselves. Like, that's obvious. Then they're just gonna splatter all of that on every star system and then say, wow, therapize me, fix me. It's like, no, we gotta rewind the whole thing until you're here on your planet and stay on your planet until you figure this shit out, and then you're ready to actually come out and collaborate. So that is much more of, the type of resolution I would encourage. But at this point, let's say that you took away all of the energy. Let's say everybody all of a sudden started to eat the most mindfully they possibly could and hold all of your energy perfectly with perfect genetic shields, and none of these toothy monsters could feed off of you. Let's just imagine that for a moment. After about 5 minutes, do you know what would happen? Imagine that they're on board some kind of a spaceship that is run by human misery. First of all, during those 5 minutes, you would start to feel great. Be like, I'm feeling better and better and better. I feel like I could run a marathon. I feel like I could dance all night. Like, I feel happy and joyous and fantastic. Like, that's it. You do not feel like a bloodthirsty murderer. You do not feel like you're I'm a super maniac and now I'm going to exact revenge. No, that is not what these rising feelings are. They are rising into pure joyfulness. You feel like a genius that could sing and dance and, whatever, have a beautiful creative experience as you are getting all of your energy of divinity. Their life support systems are going down. They're like any of those old Captain Kirk movies. Captain, our life support systems are going down. We don't know what's going on. Literally, their flying saucer ships are based on human misery. And they draw their energy off of you all the time. Fake planes that fly in the sky run on human misery. And I could be doing the most joyful dance and what's sucking my energy? Fake plane in the sky. They fly over. On cue, on command, as soon as I start dancing. It's amazing. And I know you guys know that none of this is egotism. I know you guys have had your own personal experiences with fake planes in the sky. It's just really good confirmation. And I'm totally gloves off. The truth is, I don't have to care about whether a person, rational skepticism, thinks that I'm insane, or whether, what I'm saying here is going to be interpreted through anybody's filter. Really just trying to express myself as clearly as I possibly can, because that is another one of these non-violent, non-prosecutable offenses here in this time and place. I can say all of these things, record them, and put them on YouTube. And the truth is, they can't stop you. They can't stop me. They can't stop you from singing in the grocery store. They can't stop you from creating a creative YouTube or painting or playing the guitar and sing. The truth is, singing and making a love tone with your voice, or these different levels of overtones and chanting, that is one of the most what is the word? Powerful, revolutionary activities you can do. All the things that they do to degrade humanity. We have these magical voices. They try to take the magic out of your voice, but our voice is part of how we sing reality into being, and they hate joyful singing. Like they really, really hate it when you start to use your voice in certain ways. They will try to throw everything at the kitchen sink at you. Stop it, stop singing, stop that singing. No, my ears, I can't take it. Sing your best karaoke, everyone. That is like literally, Cheeky, it's okay, girl. And literally, I think that is another, whoa, hold on a sec, hold on. Another truly, another truly sane response, like dancing in this total social lockdown. Totally, sing karaoke. Sing, put on the radio, put on your favorite song. You know what always comes up? It's always the limitations. It's like, what if the neighbor's here? What if the neighbor's here? You know, she doesn't care. She's very loud. She does not care if the neighbor's here. What if the neighbor's here? What will happen? They'll be like, wow, you're rocking out. It's not about the neighbors. The truth is those are genetic limitations that come up that are being poked and prodded by force fields from outside of this reality that are harmful extraterrestrials that don't want you to become your magnificent true self. That's the truth. That's a big lump for some people to swallow. I'm intellectually grounded enough to know that, but I say the truth to you anyway. So one of the most radical things you can do is sing. And they hate it. They fucking hate it. I'm like singing Led Zeppelin, singing Jimi Hendrix, singing everything possible. Yeah, they cannot stand it. And they're, if you get really joyful, it's like, this is supposed to be hell. What's wrong with you? Like, I'm dancing, I'm singing anyway. Yeah. And that is how you do it. Rainbow Body is mentioning what's going on with Northern California. She says they effed with Northern California for a reason this past week. Many hunkered down and transcended. I'm very happy to hear that. She says they changed the force field by evacuations and energy shutdown. By traveling at the speed of light, some of us jumped the death rate. Oh, I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, I know that there's got to be something going on. That I'm sure that there's the official agenda. Why are certain areas de-energized and other areas remain with energy? I told you about my experience of experiencing like an extra overlay on the electricity beyond what is just merely power to our, appliances. There's a consciousness affecting aspect to it too. So I'm aware that there might be something positive if people are able to reduce their exposure to that. And it means there's also less Wi-Fi. And I know that some people are concerned because it's like there's less connectivity, they can't get information, they don't know if they're safe, other people don't know if they're safe. But if you can get past those concerns, I think that it might be more possible for people to be more of their true authentic human self, like actually be in the world where you live. That so much of technology is about distancing ourselves from the natural world and not being truly present. And so, here in my world, like I have this room, this studio. I mean, I love to paint and I've been doing a lot of that because it's difficult for me to interface with technology. But I do turn on the system here. Like I have music on here. I want to listen to the music and everything. And I'm so aware of like, as soon as I go into that, I can come in from outside feeling very connected to nature. And as soon as I come in, I'm like, I want to listen to my favorite music. I have to go into the technological world and like my world shrinks down and I feel like I got constrained, I got shrunk down. And then I have to kind of like get back into my more expanded state. So just using technology, I find it's so unnatural. It's so not who we really are that, using it at this point, it becomes more and more cumbersome. It comes the opposite direction to the direction that I want to be moving. Gala says that drawing that I did, I thought about that a few months ago, FRLing over the membrane of death. Happy to see the drawing of it. Excellent. Good work, Gala. Rainbow's joking about pole dancing. Miss Plugin says, instead of having this joy overall, I'm under attack at the moment, but I'm using a lot of the Merkaba. I have to say that it works a lot. Excellent. Very, very good. I want to report to you that a couple of times there was real light that came through despite all of the shielding and all of that. And when I had those moments and when I really was unfettered, I saw the Merkaba so clearly, like with no effort. It was not difficult for me to do it all. So I'm very, very happy to hear that it's working for you. Some other people have also reported to me like spontaneously feeling it or seeing it or doing it. I think it's like activating your anatomy. I think it's a very positive thing. I think it's what we're all supposed to be doing. Sharon says, can we send the sun simulator and its creators to entropy? Hallelujah. Yes. Big yes, yes on every level. Yeah, because there's human patent, there's the humans who are complicit, there's the malevolent aliens who are thought forms who give them the ideas to do it, there's the justifications for it, and there's people who are like low-level slaves, like they might work for the weather station or something like that, and they're just going along with it. Those are like Nazi sympathizers. They're at that level. They're at that level of disgusting worminess, that they would sell out their own people knowing that there's something going on. It doesn't matter what it's been told for. If it might say, oh, it's for your health, it's good for you, we're helping you, whatever they're saying to these people, the idea that they wouldn't actually consider it. And those are the people that are supposed to be protecting the general population. So this is big, because this is a lot about a refinery of characteristics. Like, would you trust that guy? I wouldn't trust that guy, some weather guy that's like, I will be complicit with you. What's that thing from The Simpsons? I, for one, welcome our alien overlords. Like that guy, he's always kissing boots. He's always, you know what I'm trying to say? He is always prostrating himself before the oncoming regime. He is very, very happy to work with them. He's hoping for a cushy gig in the new world. That's what a lot of people are like. They're like, I, for one, welcome you. I will do what you want me to do. Pay me. So that's also big. The materialists require payment. Pay me. They don't just volunteer. They don't just work for fun. So if someone ain't paying them, like, they ain't going to do it. So they can't imagine that you would actually like dance or like do something or do something just for creative expression or whatever. It's like, what? Like, yes, I would actually do that. Okay. The question that you're asking is too off topic for me to tackle in this particular presentation, but maybe in a different one. I gotta stick to lesson 18 right now. Patricia says, a liberated person can come into the world and be useful to it without being affected by it. And that's from Swami Satchidananda. Yeah, I think that is what we are supposed to be doing in terms of transcending or superseding the story or the narrative of limitations that's here. And I'm sure that there have been some, meditators of the Far East that have done something similar. We are under a different level of limitation than has ever been experienced by anybody else at another time and place. So even though they might be great for their time, we have to develop these amazing antidotes, these antibodies, these, whatever responses to this time and place here. And it's very, very incredibly challenging. And, whatever, yeah, only a select few of people are able to really make it past the ego traps and, keep going and be able to accomplish this. Like, it's really challenging. I will totally agree with you on that. Judy says, I don't know if I can tell clearly, but you are only one of two that I watch and listen to, so maybe I can tell more clearly than I know. Good, I'm happy to hear that, Judy, seriously. And yeah, I do think that the people that are in this class have their SHIT together and, know what is truthful and what is really nourishing, as opposed to things that are totally fantastical or even dangerously lying. Yeah, so I'm very happy. Like, and it's kind of interesting. Sometimes people find my videos, and my videos like have been heavily suppressed over the years. Like, I'm happy that I have even as many subscribers as I'm able to have at this point, because yeah, I used to have like 52 people that would watch my things. And I think that, sorry, I'm just trying to refocus. I think that people can tell that there's something valuable in what I share here, and I definitely have integrity in what I'm saying. I'm happy that as many people, sometimes they find another video or something like that that might mention flying in lasagna. That's how they get here. That's what I was trying to say. So I'm very happy for all of those not so happenstance coincidences that bring people to find these ideas and find these videos. literally, like I dance on a genetic level and I do a lot of telepathic work. It's been very difficult to connect telepathically to people over the past couple of weeks because there are moments of almost total interference, like crashing heavy metal music when it's very, very hard to do anything. So you know what? Don't go surfing when the ocean is that unrestful, whatever, when the ocean is that crazy. Don't go surfing. So sometimes I can't do the flying rainbow lasagna. I'm like, nope, bad weather conditions. Nope, we're not going to do that right now. It's like, it's chaotic enough. It's crazy enough. We don't have to add to the craziness. And sometimes it's been beautiful FRL conditions. And it just depends on what's going on. So very challenging. But it's good that there are some people that are like, able to find this information. The right people find it and the right people are open to it. And then the people that aren't open to it, that is their path. This is like, I've been saying for a long time, the advanced jazz band don't have to be here. Only be here if you want to be here. Gal is talking about candy. She says, I knew it. I hear them all the time. Potato chips are the worst. Yeah, all these genetically modified organisms, they talk to your body from outside of you. They talk to your body from inside of you. Then they talk to your DNA and tell your DNA what to do. And it's like, none of it is healthy. None of it is what it's supposed to be saying. And I also recognize that even food that I have access to, like, whatever, I get good stuff that's locally grown apples and things like that. But, these are all like, domesticated foods. Like, it's very, very different than if we ate a wild diet and we had wild hunted foods. It's a very, very different. Imagine the genetic quality of the information that would be coming into our bodies. We would look and act differently. We would be undomesticated humans, but at a certain point, you will eat pure light. Carla says, can you raise your vibrations by raising your body temperature? I don't think that I don't think that you have to raise your body temperature to do it, but I think that that is a side effect. I think that it is kind of like you start to generate your own inner energy, like your own furnace, and that heat is part of that, but I don't think that that's all that it is. And I just find in my body, like sometimes it feels very warm, like you're in the sun, you're dancing, you're all these different things, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable to me. Like it feels like an appropriate amount of energy. So I think maybe the energy doesn't burn us. It doesn't make us feel hot. It just feels energized. And it also feels like you could walk all day. It feels like you could just keep going the whole time, and like you don't need to stop and have a sandwich or something like that. Usually I'm hungry all the time. Like, wait, I need a sandwich first, then we can keep going. But yeah, at these moments of being fed entirely by light, it's like, oh, you can walk all day, you can do whatever you want. So that is what our existence was like in another time, like before our DNA was changed. And that is what we can, reclaim that, but also have an even better, more expansive experience. So I don't want you to think that you'll only have the experience of being embodied in physicality. But physicality, like, this is what healthy physicality is supposed to be like. It's such an expansive, joyful, comfortable experience. And no, you do not feel like becoming instantly violent. Like when you become non-domesticated, you don't feel like being psychopathic. That's what people in this world who are domesticated and they live in cities and all these things, like, they're psychopaths. They are not healthy. And it's not good to go to cities. Like, I've just made a pledge to myself, even though the food is cheaper, if I go to the city and everything like that, don't want to go into that energy field. Like, at this point, like, it is more valuable to me to not have to go into that energy field and feel that loss of into music internally, just in order to save, I think, $4. Yeah, I think that you just, whatever, allow that to be. Like, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Ines says, participate in Halloween. Isn't it a worship towards death cult and those who once enslaved humans? You got to admit, Ines, you're totally right. I don't mean to bring everybody down on Halloween, but it's totally a satanic holiday. And I think that there's a lot of things about it that are very unhealthy. And I do feel a little bit like it's candy extortion too. Like, you got to buy something. All the food is genetically modified. All the kids want it, because the kids are super easily addicted. They're children. It's not even that it's just sugar. It's all this genetically modified stuff. So imagine like how strong a little kid would have to be like, no, I don't want to eat that stuff. When it's totally talking to them so loudly. Like, it's got to be really difficult to be a young person growing up. And also, like, the vaccine schedule and all of that, it is so concerning. It is so difficult and challenging. So huge, huge challenges for little kids to be able to, be their true selves, be a true human growing up in this world at this time. But yeah, very much on like just on the satanic or pagan aspect of Halloween. Yes, very much on like worship of ghosts who are supernatural residues who should not be in existence. So send them to entropy. And they should not be using energy at all. They should not be going slowly into entropy. Go there directly. And like a lot of people are afraid of death, and maybe kind of glamorize it and imagine themselves in the casket, like this is what I'm going to wear on my casket, something like that. It's like, I don't think that is healthy. I really don't think. And I think that people tend to imagine like they'll miss me when I'm gone. Like they think about stuff like that, but it's like that. I don't think that's a level of vindictiveness. That, again, not vindictiveness, but just like, yeah, like maybe needing to get even or something like that. That's like ego stuff. And satanic can also be considered ego, because one of the things that prevents energy from flowing effectively at the level of yellow is ego, the sense of competition. Like you're greater than me. You're not me. I hate you. Like I'm in competition with you. Not like I celebrate you. Like you're wonderful. Wait, let me read more. Let me drink some juice as I read more. Maria is taking this one privately. Oh, thank you for seeing Cheeky's little rainbow sweater. Our friend gave that to us. Thank you. Sharon agrees that salty potato chips, sorry, I have ginger in here. This is very, very gingery. Salty potato chips talk to you. I'm sure that they do. And it's not like natural sea salt. It's like sodium, which is like chemical salt. It's like, it's a very specific thing. And they grow, unless it's a very special type of potato chips that you buy, most potatoes are grown. They're genetically modified and they're grown for their specific shape, and they're kind of like trademarked and everything. Like it's food science, and they know exactly how to grow it so that it's addictive to you. Like it's totally devilish. It's not normal. Sharon says, is the tradition of chocolate at every celebration part of the dumbing down? If October 31st is the thinning of the veils, does this cheap chocolate prevent this? I don't know if the sugar highs are preventing kids from being able to see through the veil, or if it's even good. Like if most of they're focusing on lower astral boogeyman type of stuff, I don't think it's necessarily that good, even though some people psychologically say, no, it's good because you kind of learn to like fight your demons and not be scared of them. So I can see the rationality there. I will say that I used to be a great fan of the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I think had a good air of insouciance. Like there were lots of gory things or things that would have made people run away in fear, and instead they used humor or lightheartedness or some form of bravery in order to lighten the situation and still get through things that they had to get through that were like whatever, demons clawing at them or something like that. So I think that Halloween and scary boogeyman stories can do a similar thing with children to help them to feel empowered, like the ridiculous spell, turn your fears into something ridiculous. I think it can help them to feel empowered. Depends, but I'll tell you this, on my little street, like somebody, their house, they put out like a really demonic kind of display, not just like pumpkins and stuff like that, and not that much fun to have to walk past it. Like it definitely has a different type of energy that is very unpleasant, and I think that the demonic world is just all too happy to come through intentional or unintentional portholes of the things that people are putting out. And I also know that the jack-o'-lanterns were meant to be like, steal this jack-o'-lantern, don't steal my child's soul. Like there's all of these different dark things. Here's the scarecrow, steal this instead of stealing my child's soul. Like I know that there's stuff like that. This is ancient stuff. I think they called it a pop-in, bob-in, something like that. These are in merry old England, and they thought that your child was taken over or possessed in the middle of the night. Like something came in and took it out, something like that. Like there's all these little folk tales and stories like that. Yeah, and they exist for a reason. Yeah, Pedro's asking me if encrypting your own DNA helps with the talking candy. I would say that I'm heavily encrypted, and I heard it talking to me, but I didn't listen. So my willpower was still my own, but it's very strange. Like when you hear someone talking to you that loud, like that was pretty loud. And I was like, no, I don't want to eat you. Literally, I was like, no, I have healthy food at home. Eleanor, hello and happy birthday again. She says, I'm struggling since last week where you stated the sun and stars are consciously aware that we are being harvested and still allowed this to happen to us. How can we trust this light? I think that's an excellent question. Wait, I'm drinking. A lot of the work that I've done over the past week has focused on what's wrong with the stars. And that was what I was talking about. the idea that one star very selfishly, wrongly, and in a horrible way decided to create its own little psychopathic life experiment, like on a planet, like it's like the worst toothy monsters. And then it's just so easy for technology to come along and open up the cage. I need to drink more. So the answer is that stars are metabolic beings, like they have a birth, a life, and a death. And that means that they can be flawed too and have problems too. So this was definitely a flawed star. But also think about this, all the stars are a symphony, and they all are supposed to work together, and they're all co-responsible. Can't be like, ain't my fault, that star, not my job. It's like, of course it's your job. You work for this corporation. Like, you can't just say that's not your job. So yeah, all the stars are in the band. And if they're doing something that's not right, then all the stars have to step in and do something about this. So a lot of what I've been doing in terms of telepathic work has been at the level of the stars, saying, hey, this is not acceptable and this is not right, and we need to restructure reality. And there's clearly something wrong with one or more stars if they're playing this crappy music, because the great composer is not a psychopath. The great composer. So a lot of people in this realm wonder if God is dead, wonder if God is a psychopath, why is God so violent, all these different things. Why does God make, fluffy bunnies and then, kill people and all these different things? Like, there's a lot of that type of rational skepticism that comes up. No, real God is not a psychopath. Real God is actually incredibly loving and beautiful. But there's this thing that is intervening that is completely a psychopath. And it portrays itself as God. And so people think, oh, God is dead or God is a psychopath. Like, no, neither of those options. No, God is very real. God is very alive, but God has not been able to effectively connect to this realm for a very long time. So I think it goes even beyond getting light from stars. I think it goes to an inner divine connection, that even on a cloudy day, or if you were cut off from visible light from the sun and the stars, that there's a consciousness that is connected to this reality that is real intelligence. Let's reach for that consciousness. If a star can be fallible, reach for pure consciousness, not even like, if we were looking at the hierarchy, like humans this big and then a star is this big. Well, pure consciousness is like up to the sky big. It's like incredibly large, and I would say trustworthy in terms of its information and the caliber of what it is. Pedro says, I'm sorry, I'm just reading here. Pedro says, I think the light is the problem. It's like you're having the flu, but you are not stomping on each virus and one of your cells thinking that you are not doing anything. I'm trying to understand. Like, if some of the viruses, if some of the cells are not having a proper immune response to, yeah, exactly. That would be exactly what it was. If the flu came inside of your cells of your body, and instead of having a proper response and kicking them out, cells were exposed to a false light. It said, oh, these beings are your friend. Let them come on in. That is exactly what's been happening. So, my personal take on the blue chicken, the blue avian UFO cult, which now I'm happy to see it being called out. For many years, I wondered why the attention, why the fascination. It's because it is promoted by the intelligence agencies to further the agenda of friendly space aliens who use technology are here to help you. And everything about them is a fraud. Everything about David Wilcock and Corey Goode and Jordan Sather is a fraud. And much of what goes on at ECT is a fraud. Like, this is, paid for by the intelligence agencies. They only pay each other. Like, the parasites only pay each other. Patricia is agreeing that joy is the key. Oh, Yus is asking me about how to heal the zombies. Like, you can't heal the zombies. Their faces are falling off. They will not heal. That might be a difficult acceptance. They cannot heal. And psychopaths of the world are going to walk around with poopy diapers and say, wah, 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 therapize me. Like, there are zombie psychopaths. There's nothing there to do but send them to entropy. It's like, Aurora, how heartless of you. That's exactly what parasites would say when you cut off their food supply. How heartless of you. Can't you think of my little baby parasite eggs, and I want to send them to college. I have to get their savings account going. Like, do you understand? From the viewpoint of the parasite, you are a horrible person for expelling them. Like, you're like, get these worms out of me. They're making me die. I'm dying of malnutrition. The worms are taking all the energy. But the worms are like, but my children, but my ancestors, but my descendants. We've lived here for generations. You know, they'll do that. I'm joking. I'm overacting just enough so that you know that I'm joking. Yeah, people are, but wait, what about my family members? Some of your family members might be so infested with parasites and AI, black goo, and such, you know, technological, atheistic beliefs that they might actually be no longer human. I'm sorry to have to say that. This does not mean that you should like be violent or any kind of thing like that. Just understand that not everybody is at the same level of classification at this point. Some people are so identified with technology and things that are not truthful about themselves that they can no longer be classified as human. And I'm sorry if that includes some of your biological family members. Wow, grab your security blanket. I'm sorry to say that. That's like saying your planet's been invaded. This is like any science fiction movie. Your planet's been invaded, and there's some people that are still thinking for themselves and some people that are totally part of the infestation. And some of your friends and family members, someone that you know from high school is infested. Clutch my pearls in horror. Yes, this is what is happening. This is what is happening. Oh my goodness. Like, I think that is that difficult to understand. That is what is going on. And there's no way to like get them uninfected. Like, we'll create a magical potion that will be the antidote, and then they'll be fine. They will grow back their zombie skin and they will not be infected anymore. Like, that is not what's going on, because a lot of them have willingly aligned themselves with technology, with artificial intelligence, with a supposed technological utopia. A lot of them want that. Some people are traitors to humanity, to like true natural humanity. Some people don't contain the personality aspects that should go in the right direction. Like, they are things that should go to entropy. And again, apologies if this describes various of your family members. I'm sorry to be that honest with you. And I don't mean to be laughing or inappropriately lighthearted at that moment. Eleanor says, yes, still finding it challenging to balance maintaining authentic relationships with loved ones, family, who are taking flu shots and watching the news, seeing their inner light being distorted or extinguished, feeling the visceral, emotional, mammalian love for them, at the same time needing to take care of and reclaim and preserve my energies, sometimes from the filters of the relationship to them. Quite a learning process from an emotional human point of view. Keep doing the Ephraim Merkaba and connecting to the sun, stars, and central black hole. Really good practice and really good viewpoint from, you know, what it's like to be a person with the family, what it's like to be a human with the family, what it is like to see other family members. Like, imagine if there were a war and some people agreed with the captors. What if, you know, whatever, the worst people, if it was the Nazis, the this or that, and they came to your country. And what if some of your family members said, yep, I'm a Nazi, there you go, I'm going to be part of the team Nazi now. Like, you know, I'm using silliness to say this and exaggerated language. But what if that's what they're doing? What if they're like, yep, I want the AI nanobots. Give me my genetically modified chocolates. Give me my artificial mindset. A lot of people want to take pharmaceuticals because they don't enjoy their mindset at all. They're like, give me the drugs, doc, give me what you got. They want to be in a non-real reality. And I have had to come and accept that. That's what a lot of people want. Okay, fine. But that is not flying rainbow lasagna reality. You could do that at a different spot. But yeah, that is what some people want. So what do? The love stance is acceptance, but it's not like you're allowed to do that over here. You got to do that in your own zone. And that is not this zone. You want to play that music, that's in a different band. Pedro says, no, wait, Sandy's saying, since doing the homework, it is much easier to visualize the chakras and move energy through them. Awesome. That is the whole point of doing the homework. Thank you for being in this class. Lovely friend over many years. You did me a beautiful scarf. It's getting chilly now here. I'm starting to wear my scarves. And we appreciate you very much. And that's also the whole point of why I want to do things like sharing the homework. Like, it's kind of like, whatever, we're in this incredible crisis. And even in this incredible crisis, some of you have taken the time to like focus here every week. And I try to bring the most salient information of what can possibly help on the journey, what can possibly help to bring you towards freedom, and where you will not be fooled by frauds or fooled by shiny trinkets or go in directions that are not healthy for you, to like give you a fighting chance. That's everything here. And so I'm very, very happy that learning about your own anatomy has helped you to move energy through it. That's how you fight the battle. You fight the battle by eating your own food and sending all that energy to your own cellular structure and moving your own energy through all of your own energy centers, and then taking that to the level of flying rainbow lasagna, where you are literally, you know, like vibrating at a higher dimensional level. Like that is what you do. That's what you do. That is the pathway here that I'm suggesting and recommending to everyone. Pedro says, are there other beings helping us that could benefit if I put a Merkaba on them? Difficult for me to answer that, because every time that I externalize my power, I kind of get backlash from it. So I just keep on focusing on my own inner connection to the consciousness that is divine. And I would encourage everyone to do that. Like, not a personification or a sense of like, you know, any kind of like, who is here? Like, is there like, who's here? You know, like whatever you perceive, that is coming between you and God. Like, it should not be there. Like, all of this should be your, so let's say that this generative field is who you are, creating with God. Nothing should come between you and your generative field and the divine. Like, that's it. You should just be guiding the whole time. There should not be anybody else like involved in this process. So when I catch myself, like if I think that I'm personifying someone or thinking that there is someone other than that, I kind of like reel myself back on, and I'm like, because I keep getting disappointed. I'm like, wait, if you're a real person, why are you letting this crap go on, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, okay, take it to the next level. Just be Karen and ask for the manager. Ask for the manager. I'd like to see your supervisor, please. Just keep going up and up and up. I mean, if you go up high enough, you just get to pure consciousness. So perhaps then the answer is, Pedro, please put a Merkaba around pure consciousness. I think that would be perfect. Sharon says, why does one person see the lies and the partner does not, and actively and angrily denies and questions your sanity? I cannot answer what is the qualitative difference. Everyone here is being exposed to the same crapola in the air, the same force fields, the same temptations of Halloween candies, but some people are super strong, and some people are super creative, and some people are real badass. There's people that I know that have cancer, instead of being like, oh, that's it, I'm just gonna die, they're like, no, I'm gonna take cannabis, I'm gonna change my life, I'm gonna do all these different things. Like, they do all these different raw juicing, whatever, and try to live. Like, some people get a diagnosis and they think that it's the end. Some people think like, no, I'm gonna totally, you know, it's all the response that you have to a crisis or to a seemingly unwinnable situation. What is the response that you have? And that is part of like the, you know, creation of your identity. Who are you in a crisis? Who are you in a crisis? Are you the guy that's like, that's it, I can't deal, like, get the ice cream, I'm just gonna eat a lot of ice cream? Like, are you that guy? Or are you the guy who's like, I'm a hero, like, I'm going to build something that fixes this or does something in some way? Like, you figure your way out. Be the hero. Don't just drown your sorrows in ice cream. I chose ice cream for some reason. I don't know why. But I don't know. I don't know what is the qualitative difference between the people that rise to the occasion, become an inner hero, become courageous, and the people that choose to be ignorant or complicit. I don't know what is that qualitative difference. And Patricia agrees, that is a good question. Pedro says maybe different levels of enlightenment. Lisa's asking if we have a 99-cent store by us. I'm sure there's got to be one somewhere, but it's probably down in the 5G swamp. I don't want to go down there. Ines says, Aurora, your wisdom and messages are spreading energetically throughout the whole globe. Good, thank you. I'm happy to hear that. When I discuss some of your topics with friends, they say they could receive these aspects already telepathically via morpho field. Awesome. That means you change reality awareness all over, automatically stronger each day. What a great power we send out with our strong and directed thoughts. Ines, thank you so much for confirming that to me. That is fantastic to hear, because it's just like, sometimes you wonder, like, you just, sometimes I can wonder, like, is there anybody out there? It's hard to hear sometimes. There's so much other stuff going on. Good. So very encouraging. Curtis, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. This is Wholeness and Balances Vibrations family and Sister Aurora. It is such an honor and divinely fortunate to be connected in these moments. Thank you for arriving. It says, Sai, truly grateful. I've found focus and consistency are the top priorities in building the reality we seek. Co-creating mindfully, find the cosmic current, open your cells, and FRL, LOL. Way easier said than done, but worth the challenge. Love you all. And says, honored reflection. Thank you so much, Curtis. And I love what you say. And I feel like this is the sane response, it's the loving response to what we're being subjected to. And I think it is a brave and noble response. None of this is about like running away or pretending away or fantasizing. I think that this is the sane and logical response, like finding other people who are real people who are not filled with AI technology. And this is, again, similar to what the end of Atlantis was like when there was a technological invasion. At a certain point, like you were talking to a human-faced container, but you don't know who's inside. And when your telepathy is degraded, like it's hard to tell. Like the wild animals, they're looking at a statue. Like, can they tell if it's a statue or if it's a real animal? Like, I'm looking at a face. Is it a real person? Is there a real person? Like, is knock, knock, knock? Is anybody home? The challenges are to find real persons, real organisms, and have real connections, like not to settle for just being over the digital connection, but to do like real telepathy or real in-person connections. And like Curtis was saying, this is how we are making a new melody or a new experience. And it is very much a mind-created realm. Who should be creating in this mind-created realm? Who should use your generative field? You should. You should. No one else should. No space alien should. No supposed self-proclaimed divine being should. Like, you, as connected to divinity, should be creating this. Because this is a big part of self-determination on this planet and self-determination with your body. Like, who should tell you what your body should be shaped like? You should. Who should tell you what your planet should be shaped like? You should. Not a bunch of invading space aliens who use technology. We got someone outside. That's why there's a little bit of barking. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. There's like tree work and stuff being done. Question about twin use is question, are twin flames genuine? I don't think so. I think it's a psyop. And Patricia says, focus and consistency are the top priorities in building the reality we seek. Thanks, Curtis. Great. Very good. Let me drink a little bit more. Judy says, it is really challenging. Here, cheeky girl, cheeky. It's okay. You're really challenging right now. Judy says, it's really challenging raising children, especially when my husband does not agree with some of what we are talking about. Keeping them on the negative foods, oh yeah, and participating in Halloween, watching TV, it feels like losing proposition. I did the best I could. I was not aware enough to not do the vaccines. They're 17 and 19 and totally making their own choices, and just have to hope some of my crazy talk made it through. Just think I'm a bit nuts. Oh well. Can be very, very challenging, co-parenting and figuring out how you can protect your children from the literal forces of evil that are trying to do everything they can to poison them. And so, yeah, there's a lot of parents don't understand the vaccine agenda. They don't understand the food agenda. They don't understand the connection with food allergies. They just, sometimes there's ignorance, sometimes there's willful ignorance. But yeah, it can be very challenging. So, you know, my heart goes out to you. And whatever you did in the past, whatever, like if there were vaccines in the past or anything like that, there's always the possibility for profound healing. Like, that's the thing. You claim your body. As this light and information comes to you, you find out like, oh, anything that happened that was like a diminishment or degradation of your body can be fixed and healed in a most amazing way. And that's part of you recognizing that you're much more than just a material slice of the pie. You are a total full spectrum being. You work on your own body, and each one of us works on our own body. And this becomes a new reality that is created by many, many people living a new truth. And that's real magic. Real magic is not write words in a book or I point my magic wand or something like that. It is living your truth with your actual body. Kevin says, did you once say there were humans using simple tools living alongside perfected humanity during the time of Atlantis? Why would anyone use tools before the attack? But, you know, my understanding has definitely cleared up about what things were like. No, there were not like simple hominid primates that also lived alongside of perfectly, divinely undomesticated humans. Everything that was on our world at that point was undomesticated. And every organism sang a perfect genetic song. So there might have been other hominids or primates or something like that that looked different than what we looked like. They did their own thing as wild beings, not as any kind of thing that is controlled or like a pet like us. And you're right, they would not have to use tools. Everything was telepathic, everything sang. So if you're like, I'm not going to eat this, why should I grow this? Because it sings beautifully. That's why. Like, there are things you can't imagine were motivating people in terms of creating ecosystems, you know, living in the world, what the sensorium was like. It was a completely different motivation than what we are presently motivated by. So yeah, there were many different types of organisms that all coexisted, but you didn't have to eat your neighbor. So this is analogous to what humans think of as like the Garden of Eden type of place. But it was everyone sustained through mental food. And yeah, whatever you achieved was achieved through mental strengths. So yeah, so that's my clarification for whatever I might have said in the past. Thank you for that question. Curtis says, I found a perfect Halloween Decipher video today that really pulled the curtains back. I'll find the link. Its true essence has been reversed, whereas our ancestors' communication are amplified and the portal is open from the summer solstice to November 2nd. They've shortened it and introduced fear and cooties. Yeah, exactly. I think it's the fear thing. That is the unwholesomeness of it. And I do understand, like, some people venerate their ancestors, and I would just say, like, you know, recognizing your genetic, like the earliest notes of the song, totally good and appropriate. But you are the musician playing these notes right now. That is what is really important. Our lives should never be dictated by any kind of ghosts from the past. Those were ghosts from the past. They did their thing in the past, and we are here now. And that's the most radical thing, because it gives us an opportunity to completely create something new, instead of constantly being dictated by what has happened in previous generations. Because if that's it, if it's in the underpainting, it's going to show up in the top section, like, oh my God, like, then this painting is just hopeless. It's, what we're going to do? No, you have to have the permission to, at a certain point, disengage from what has happened in the past. And that's not a disrespect, but it is like a freedom. Kind of like, I've been trying to think of different analogies, and one is like the car transmission, even though I'm totally not a car understanding person, but I do understand, like, what we're trying to do with our consciousness is to go into a higher gear. And just like in the car, you have to shift into neutral, or kind of like, you know, disengage. You have to disengage the gears for a little bit. So I've been having many moments of that where I feel like I have to disengage from humanity, from reality, from time structure. And it doesn't have to be for a very long amount of time, but sometimes I feel like I have to completely disengage, my gears no longer mesh with anyone or anything else that's in this reality, and then be free to go into a different level of reality and then re-engage. So I would encourage everyone to have that level of fluidity, and like give yourself the freedom to do that. Like, don't be like every day I have to be doing my usual 9-to-5 routine and I'm not allowed to do these things. And also, there might be also a sense of like responsibility. Because when I get a new idea, I do think like, oh, I want to tell everyone about it. Sometimes I have to just disengage and just be like, okay, like, I'm just engaging with myself and with my own process at this point, and then later might emerge and re-engage and tell someone about something else. Okay, thank you, Cheeky. Thank you very much. Rainbow says, many of us are sent in by God, got sabotaged, but are snapping out of it. That is a good reportage. And I think that that's an accurate description. It's like people who come here with good intentions and want to be, you know, fighting nobly. And it's just a very polluted realm, and it's very difficult to stay true to yourself. So I do understand that, and I'm encouraging everyone to snap out of it. Very good. Ina says, I have the feeling that we will get presented very soon, the technological extraterrestrials in open public. Is there anyone else who has such a feeling? Yeah, you know, I think that it's already here. There are so many videos on Mr. BBB333, and it is so, they're so blasé now. People see this in the sky. They're like, triangle craft, square shaped cloud, you know, this and that. It's like the most normal thing in the world. Like, none of this is normal, and that's what kills me. It's just like, you know, if you're recognizing all of these things are flying over your head and spraying crazy crap on you, and things are growing out of your skin, like, why are you still like just paying the electric bill, like just acting like everything is normal? California is so not normal, but everyone is just acting like everything is normal. Pay the electric bill that is being turned off because you're being hit by directed energy weapons, by evil extraterrestrials. Like, who do you think is attacking you in California? Like, this is like, oh, I can't believe the mind control ray is so strong that people don't even recognize that they're under attack, but people are starting to recognize that they're at war. And people are like, you know, who's responsible? It's Trump. It's the orange Cheeto. It's him. He's our problem. And it's like they're not seeing clearly enough to even know who their enemy is, who is doing this, what is happening to them. That's how you invade a planet. Yep. You make it so that even when you're overtly firebombing the people don't know who's doing it and don't know how to stop you. Fun, fun, fun. Grab your security blanket. I know, not that much good to hear. Angel says, how do we know when it's you connecting telepathically? Is it ever a one-on-one conversation or more of a collective message? I think I've had telepathic conversations with you, but maybe I've not. Hardly ever do a one-on-one, and I usually send out a group email that will arrive in your psychic inbox. And then since time is non-local, you can always reflect back, and I will, of course, respond. But what it feels like when I do my Fly Me Lasagna dance, I'm in a time outside of time, and I get information. I'm like, okay, let me just send this out to everybody that needs to know about this now, and I'll send it out to everyone, and then it's on to the next thing. So it's very much like sending out and not necessarily waiting for responses back. So I'm always happy when I get confirmation that people have actually heard the message, that they were like, ah, yeah, I got that one on that day. I know what that one was about. Pedro says, just remembered about a news about people building a giant Ouija board. I think they're trying to open a portal, double Merkaba, or that Merkaba, all the molecules of that thing. I think I know what you're talking about, Pedro. I know a lot of people use their energy irresponsibly, and I think that is what is going on. Let me just drink a little bit more. There's a sense of powerfulness, like the intelligence agencies who are like, oh, I can see things other people can't see. When people can talk to the dead, they think, oh, idolize the dead and I'll see things that other people can't see. It's all ego stuff. It's all very low level stuff. But remember, like Satanism works through ego stuff. You says, I feel my family are unaware instead of wanting to sabotage humanity. So we can try to help as some people in the middle and needing guidance. I thought humanity has to heal collectively, not just caring about our own selves. That's one of the faulty premises. Everybody's got to heal collectively. Everybody has to finish the marathon. Otherwise you can't finish the marathon. Nope, that is not truthful. No, you're really only responsible for yourself. And the love stance says that you must allow other people to make their own choices. So if they chose to eat the candy, chose to eat the candy. And then they got fat belly for eat the candy, because it's like that's what they did. Okay, so I mean, I don't know, you sound to me like you're trying to be responsible for other people and their choices, and it's necessary to allow them their choices. Eleanor says about energetic anatomy and the homework. Is the light blue circle in the last homework still supposed to be perfectly nested in the cleft between the red circles? Thank you. Oh my God, I'm going to answer your question by email. That'll be way easier. I don't have those drawings available to me right now. Thank you for understanding. But I will email that to you. Curtis is, there we go. Very good, Curtis. I will connect with you later. That sounds great. Pedro is saying, yes, I chose ice cream as my example because the ice cream is talking to me. I don't have any ice cream in my house. I'm totally safe from ice cream. Okay, so Yus is asking, if I fail to give in, I will eventually return to source. I can still be captured by them forever. Here's what would happen. Like, there are people who will not be able to make this transformation, and some people who are actively embracing some kind of virtual reality. And you go into a virtual reality where time runs at a different scale. And it can be like 1 second here, but it's like 10,000 or 20,000 or a million billion years there. And that's the simulation. That is a total simulation where they control even a box of rocks falling onto the ground, having very little information in there. It's just endless torture and endless torture. And there's not actually a way for your consciousness to ascend and get out of there. So all you can hope for is the instantaneous destruction of all of the technology everywhere, which of course is ongoing. So you would get into a trap that then would be instantaneously destroyed, but you might still have some experience of time while you're in the trap. That's not very much fun. I know. That's grab your security blanket. Like, wait, I'm going to go, you're going to go into a virtual reality 5G trap. And it might feel like ages and eons before anything happens. And then eventually your consciousness would be set free and you would be able to go where you were supposed to go in the first place without getting stuck in a roach motel. David Lear says, thanks, Aurora. Great session. See you at band practice. Thank you so much. Reading privately here. I'll talk about that. I'll be able to answer that with you, I think, more privately. Okay. You says, I have trust issues and with you. However, your effort and sincerity shines through. I wonder if there is any good out there. I was near death. I couldn't cope thinking. Thank you. Oh, to say, I know. Well, so you're clearly new to everything that's going on here. And I know you've asked a whole lot of questions and not all of them are on topic. So I was just encouraging you to like look into the body of my work and everything, because I can't answer. It's already been several hours and I'm very extremely tired. Patricia says, honoring ancestors is not evil. The twisted All Saints Day, just like they twist everything. This is true. Halloween isn't any more evil than Easter when they celebrate a crucified human as a blood sacrifice to Jehovah. There's so much in the Jewish religion with animal sacrifice that became the Christian religion with human sacrifice, and Easter is not actually Easter. Got it from Eastre. I mean, there's so much. Let's just say that all of this earth religion is a long con that glorifies death. Very little of it is actually about staying with your body and transcending the membrane of death. Just think about that, guys. The way that you take energy away from this huge technological nightmare is to stay with your body and transcend the membrane of death. And it's your willpower that does this. It's like, this is the simplest message that I can possibly bring to you, but it's radical because all these religions say, no, you must die. You must die and go to heaven, and your great leader has died. No. Stay with your body, stay alive, be a part of the symphony of life, stay alive and be a troublemaker. That's exactly what I'm encouraging everyone here to do. Pedro says, we can just offer our family the red FRL pill. It's their choice to take it or not. It seriously is. So let's say this. Ines, I think, is coming to us from Germany. The people that she talks with say, hey, I'm sensing all of this information and truth, even though they might not speak English, they might not see my videos, they might not know me, but they're hearing the music. Anybody who really wants to be a part of this band can be a part of this band, even if they live across the world, even if they don't know me personally, even if they are only getting this as genetic input. And that's part of the equal playing field. So anybody who's into it is into it. Anybody who's not into it is not into it, and that's totally fine. You can go on metal saucers in your direction, but this is something different. And I hope that you're getting me. Like, that is cool. That is what's like fair and equitable. That is good. Yeah, Curtis is sharing a link to everyone about Halloween Deciphered, so thank you for that. And Pedro is saying, in the beginning, I also made a lot of questions. Just hang in there and keep watching Aurora's lessons. It's a lot of information to take in. It will take time to assimilate it. Thank you for that, Pedro. And Pedro has been a very loyal and reliable member of this class for many years. Yeah, and again, like, I know I'm moving at a fast pace in this class and also can't be expected to slow down. I actually want everyone to speed up. And I'm happy if people jump on board at the end, but I got a whole backlog of things. If you want to delve into all of that, that probably will answer those questions. And what we're talking about now is current events. Current events, that's it. So a lot of people think that they have to die. A lot of people think that they have to have a planetary death. No, we're actually supposed to completely transcend the idea of death. Yeah, well, it's good to make people aware of information, and then it's their personal choice about whether they would like to participate with it. You know, I know that this has been like broad. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you very much. I know that this has been broad and that it relates to the ideas of lesson 18, but it's not an exact, you know, expression of what that is. But this is really what we're presently experiencing. So everything that has been woven into the domestication of humanity is now at its fruition or at its culmination. All the expectations and belief systems and limitations. So you can stick with those limitations, which would be like staying as a limited human who needs to have a zero energy device or needs to have an AI tell it what to do, or needs to have some kind of a peaceful space society to make sure that it doesn't do something naughty. Or you can be in a state of true freedom, like truly claiming yourself as a human that's be like divine, connect to the planet, connect to the sun and the stars, filled with all this light. But, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. It's what all of these cartoons are about. It's what all the stuff that you did as a caterpillar is about, is like getting you ready for this. And then you go into this expanded state. And I think that it's absolutely preferable to the limited materialistic based state. But it does require a great deal of effort, like, to get there. And it's not something that someone else like can force you to do or make you to do. We're just saying the Dark Crystal, you know, I know the movie, and I don't know if this is like from something new. But yeah, I mean, there's some good truth in there. There are things that inspire us. And in the moment of your experience, you're like, wow, this is just like a thing that inspired you, a song, a movie, something like that. Those things exist for a reason. Those are like breadcrumbs of nourishment to try to give you a little bit of an idea of where you would be going in terms of consciousness. Sharon says, Aurora, thank you so much. Hopefully we won't all be here in the 3D world next week to connect technologically with you. You know, I am looking forward to a really like a visible change. I certainly have had many interior changes, even in terms of, I was saying to you guys, eyesight changes. Like I still use contact lenses, but there are periods now where I'm not wearing them and I'm able to see clearly. But it feels like I then have to jump back to my, more whatever familiar stance, to what is more familiar to me. Like I could foray outward, but then have to keep on jumping back. And same thing with moments of like feeling very comfortable and well nourished, but then I'm like, I'm extremely hungry and I need to eat a cow. Like sometimes that is like that. So very exhausting, I would say, and preferable to be able to simply make that leap. So I want all of us to be able to have that opportunity. So, but also like for however many, this is how you do it. Like for however many days or however much time we are experiencing, let us be joyful. Seriously, prioritize the right things. Prioritize people that you love or organisms that you love. Like I spend a lot of time taking care of my body, my dog's body, and my garden. That's what we prioritize in the day. Those things feel very real to me. And then other things, like whether I have answered every single email or message, those things feel less real to me. So my continued apologies to anybody when you try to get through to me electronically if I'm not exactly on it and professional in that way. And also, I know that it can be challenging to still be caring about what is like a pantomime of reality, in terms of we have to pay our bills, do the social structure, do all those things, even knowing that it's an unreal structure. Because what we really need to do is release all this information that shows governments are not making their money through traditional means, but that government itself is a front for human trafficking and sex abuse that is sold to whom? Who buys that shit? Not humans. Inhuman monsters. So literally, Earth is being like commerced or commodified. Elements of Earth energy is being commodified and then being sold to non-human off-world entities. And none of this is being done consensual to the planet or the people who the energy is being siphoned off from. So the most radical thing you can do is be like, no, that's my energy, you're not allowed to take that. And you also have to understand, like, this is the reason why the government exists. So there's no way for you to preserve your government and have your security blanket and say everything is fine, when this is what government does. It is not designed for preserving your safety or your freedom. I know that these are the lip service that is said, but what it actually is doing, it is a cover for, a front for selling humanity to something evil. And just think about this. If it wasn't sex stuff, it's war stuff, all right? The entity is like, I'm hungry, give me some blood. Be like, cool, start a war. There's no problem. How many dead people do you want? How many amputations do you want? This is literally what humans who are complicit, bloodthirsty monsters do, okay? That's not even hyperbole. That might be shorthand, but that is not even hyperbolistic. They are happy to sacrifice your family members who are in the armed services, like the way that humans would sacrifice beings at a slaughterhouse. Say, how many do you need? How many corpses do you need? That is horrible. None of this is about geopolitical stabilization. None of this is even about the motivations of basic human economy. It's about human misery. It's what their machinery runs on, human misery, all right? And the deaths, these are like trapped consciousnesses. So this change of their technological structure has everything to do with setting those consciousnesses free. That they've been stuck inside of microverses and multiverses and pocket worlds and bubble worlds, living their lives in a hellish technological, non-real world. And while their energy is harvested, and all you have to do is be like, hey, you live in an unreal world. Like, stop acting like everything is normal and start flying rainbow lasagna, or reaching beyond the boundary of the material world, beyond the boundary of the world that you think you're stuck in. And this is what has to happen for the whole entire technological empire. The whole entire technocracy runs on that level of trapped and victimized consciousness. All of that consciousness needs to be set free. So this is, again, not something that is being done, it's never been done, let's say within this melody, within this symphony. Like, this is like, we're cleaning up with a very, very big bucket. And I'm not here to tell you like, oh, therefore it's going to take a long time. I'm trying to say, like, It's an enormous job. It's an enormous magnitude. And this is the culmination moment of this enormous job. So there will be an enormous amount of freedom as a result of this. It is very worthwhile. Your own personal efforts are very worthwhile. Your endurance is worthwhile. It was never meant to have to be so hard. Like, it was never meant to have to be like, make it as hard as possible. They made it as hard as possible. Oh my God. Pedro is saying, I would suggest to new classmates to watch past lessons and keep a notebook handy. That's, I think, a good suggestion. And Yus is saying, will this be on YouTube? Yes, all of these are recorded and archived. So I think with that, it's going to be a very long upload, nearly 3 hours. Let me just stop the recording for now and say thank you to everyone who's been with me on this journey.